Hey, all right, we're live. Yo, can you guys see? Let's see if people start joining. I need to post the link to it on our release.
Turn your computer a little bit so I don't have to snuggle up to you.
That's fine. You can snuggle up. All right, so we're live. Let me post the. Where do I post it? Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. Tune in. Whoops, what did I do here? Tune. What did I just do? Boom. All right. The first couple minutes are going to be boring. Oh, there's 20 people live. I'm going to start picking my nose here. All right, guys, just hang tight here as we've got a few things going on. So while you're waiting for me, if you haven't already, make sure that you go look at the give a thumbs up if you guys can hear me, see me. But go ahead and check out the mountaintop page if you haven't already. So I'm going to show you. There we go. Play it there. Okay. You guys looking at that? So we can go through it and look at all the cool stuff. Nick, you got it? Sweet. All right. I've just got to send a link out to someone here. And we'll get cracking. Thanks everybody for joining. Super pumped about this. It's going to be freaking awesome. Link. So guys, we are going to have Alan on the call. So stay tuned. I've got him coming. I got to send him the link to this. They were having some technical difficulties, as you saw if you were watching. They were having a few issues getting it up and rolling. So give me just a sec. And now I can't find his email. Oh, here we go. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Ask your questions. Start asking questions. That way we'll have them pulled up. So go ahead and start posting your stuff. So we got who's on here so far. Darren, is that you? Are you in there? I think I see you. Okay. And I'm gonna get Ellen on it. It's gonna be freaking awesome. I hope you guys are ready to rumble. What do you guys think so far? Post some of the stuff. When will it snow? Yeah. What's the way? Okay, if you have any questions about the look, I'm playing the website right there. It's right there in front of your face. All right. It's mountaintopsnowbike.org right now. So go to it, start looking at it, and that, because if you haven't already, be getting your questions in mind, write them down, and then hang on to them so I don't lose them. And then I'll go ahead and tell you guys to post your questions, and then we'll get rocking on it. All right. So I gotta send this to Alan.
I can go through
some Mountaintop Snowbikes. Well, I've got to bounce back and forth here. All right, Alan. But yeah, go look it up if you haven't already seen it. MountaintopSnowbike.com. There we go. Link. All right. I gotta see this thing a couple days ago, guys. It's freaking awesome. It is legit. All right, we got a couple guests that are gonna be on here. Holy crap, it's friggin' blowing up. Everybody's popping online now. I'm just gonna give it a few minutes while everybody gets on here.
Will there be a belt drive option?
Dude,
probably not.
Don't even worry about the belt drive. Don't even worry about any belt drive, man. Belt drive, schmelt drive.
I don't think Alan's on board with the belt drive.
You guys will see soon. Emailed you link. Seriously, a lot of your questions may be answered already, so I don't want to waste Alan's time or anybody's time at answering questions that are on the website. Okay, so if you haven't, take a couple of minutes, go through it, And then, and if it's a question that isn't answered on the website, let's dig into that. I also have a, Matt and I filmed the other day, an interview with Alan. And, so he's going to be, click on the link. Sorry. We've got a full video coming out. We were at Penco, so shout out to Penco. Thanks for them for hosting us. And we got to go through the kit in detail. It's about a 2-hour long interview, and we go through everything. So Lyndon, go look at the website. Sorry guys, I'm not trying to be rude, but if you haven't looked at the website, go to it, and the specs, everything is there, right? The weight, everything, drivetrain, you name it. They've got some videos on there. It's freaking badass. Who's SB? Is that you, Darren? Or who is SB here?
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. who
He's got his face on there.
Yeah, who is SB? Oh, I think I posted the wrong freaking. Sorry, guys. I think I posted the wrong freaking. I posted the wrong link on there. That was my invite link. So don't go to that. Let me delete it. Oh, that's funny. Technology. You gotta love it, guys. So that was the invite link that was for people to join. So that's just going to be for Darren and Alan and Riley as well. So we'll be sending that out. So again, guys, thanks for joining. Go check out the website if you haven't already, and everything is there, specs, details, a lot of good stuff. So, and then on these, at least it wasn't a Pornhub link. I don't have those, Dimitri. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Riot 3 Pro for sale. Oh, the comments are great, guys.
It's gonna be blowing up.
Yeah.
With these kits.
So again, go check it out and just sit tight and hold your questions for later. And then we'll go through some of the questions after we talk to Alan here for a bit, and then we'll be bringing on another guest as well. Darren Teal and Riley Will from BRC Engineering. So let me add Alan to the stream here, and I'm gonna remove my page. There we go.
The more you lean it, the harder it hooks.
Alan, you're
on
now. You can't hear me. He's got his.
Yeah, what you want? Fucking heavy front end.
He's got his. There we go. We'll wait for him while he's talking to Rush. All right, you know what? I think Alan, there, you're live. Let me unmute you there. We heard all the shenanigans. Just kidding. All right. Can you hear okay, Alan?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Cool, man. We got you. Everybody's freaking out, asking a bunch of questions. So I basically told everybody, look, if you didn't see the website yet, go look at the website, go to the tech specs. They can read all about it because they're answering a lot of questions that are already on here. So if you're going to ask dumb questions about what does it weigh, there you go. There's the weight right there. You're asking questions about what it costs, there you go, right there. So if you want to know what dealers are carrying it, boom. Dealers. It's super simple. The website's super clean, easy to go through. It doesn't get much better than this. So I think the one unknown, Alan, and maybe you can announce this on here, is what is who's the writers?
In the pictures?
No, who's gonna be your writers?
Oh, well, that's on the website as well with the bios of the guys. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, where is it on here? Oh, is it the about? Oh man,
it's under writers.
Oh, look at this.
Go to the page, it'll tell you all about the writers.
I had a feeling this might happen. That's awesome. Darren, who we've got on the line as well. So we'll get Darren Darren on board here. Justin Cox, Blake Davies, Derek Driggs, Eric Johnson, Corey. Corey's out of Kalispell. Cool, man. That's awesome.
So that list will be ever growing.
Of course.
We have a few updates that'll go on those riders, and that's, which dealer they promote. So everybody, they don't ride, except for Regan. Regan is our one factory representative. So
right.
Regan will end up essentially working for us, and he's got a whole pile of jobs that he does, but his main focus is writing, testing, validating, working with people, dealers, anywhere he's needed from a writer's and representative standpoint of the company.
Right.
So the rest of them are considered to be ambassadors writers. And so we've kind of pulled together what we think's an A team, and they all we've made a point to make sure that they all are working under a dealer, one of our dealers that are listed, so that they're not just aimlessly promoting, but they're, specifically promoting for their local dealer. I mean, they're obviously working and helping the sport in general, but they are ambassadors for certain dealers that are on our dealer list.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm super pumped, and as I had mentioned, guys, I see some questions you're asking about the interview that I did with Alan. It's going to be coming. It'll be up probably later tonight. It was a very big file, and so I had some issues posting it, but it'll be live tomorrow. We'll make sure to post that. So that's going to be a long form video. We're really going to go into the kit in detail, and Alan goes through it all. So, I think this one we'll be able to keep a little bit shorter. We'll get Darren in on the call, and then we'll have Riley as well. But I think the big thing is that, the main question everybody's going to want to know is like, Alan, like, dude, it's freaking badass. Like, how, when did the vision or the thought first occur when you were like, I'm making another kit, like right when you sold it to Polaris?
Oh, absolutely not. No. I didn't know what my career looked like after I sold to Polaris. My main focus was just working for them and doing the best job that I could. I wasn't a corporate kind of guy, so I didn't really fit in like the management role of.
I would never have known that. I would never have realized.
I'm more of a product hands-on guy, and if you want to know the truth, the only reason I do all this is because it's fun, and I've made fun my life in my career. So I worked for them for 5 years. That's how long my contract was up. When my contract was up, I opted to stop working there. I wanted to do something on my own again. That was a little more gratifying than working for corporate America, which nothing wrong with that. It's just really not for me. So I played around with side-by-sides and sand cars and started building some suspension components and stuff for those, and kind of just quickly realized it's really not the industry I wanted to be in. It was exciting, but not as exciting as snow-related stuff. So I kind of just came to grips with, I'm a snow guy. I don't know what you want to call me. I'm a snowmobile guy, snowbike guy. That's the one thing I never gets old to me. And it's also the industry that I know the best. So it was at that time that I decided I wanted to start another snowbike company, because I'm like, I already know all this stuff. I know what to do. I know the customer. I know the dealers. I know the contacts for manufacturing. I mean, I just kind of had it all going on. So that was kind of.
What year was this? Like roughly when was this?
June of 2021. So June of 2021, I legalized mountaintop. And so I had to do that before I could do anything, because I needed to start talking to vendors and people that would make me stuff. And of course, if you don't have a business, they don't want to talk to you.
Yep.
So that was step number one. And that's when I started developing the kit. So that would have been beginning of last summer. And so I knew what I would build. It wasn't no question about how to build it. I didn't really need to do a lot of experimenting. I've been there and done that on so many things. I just know what works. And so I just had to dig deep and keep it real because I knew I didn't have a ton of time. I had to start the project and complete the project and bring it to market in a timely fashion. I can't spend 10 years developing stuff like some people do.
Yep.
This stuff's expensive, man, and it sucks up your funds quick. So you got to get to the punchline. So yeah, we went from hand-built prototype to pre-production prototype to production prototypes to I think what we call just pre-production kits in general, and now we're into production. So a lot of versions of the kit were made in that time, and refinements were made, but the general design is the same from the original hand-built prototype. And I will eventually take that kit, which is still in perfect working order, completely hand-built, with no engineering done to it other than hand-built engineering, kind of like a custom chopper. And I'll put that kit back on the bike. This bike that you see behind me, actually, I don't know.
That's the original prototype right there.
No, that's just the bike I developed it on.
Oh, copy.
The original. Well, this bike's done a lot of projects. It's done a lot of Timbersled projects too. But that's my personal bike. It's got a lot of hours on it. It's a good bike. It's never broke down. I'll put that hand-built kit on that bike and keep it for a relic.
Real quick, Alan, what I'm sure everybody wants to know, what's the specs on the bike there?
Which one?
Your bike behind you. No, your bike.
Oh, it's got I think 120 hours on it.
And what's the year and any tweaks to it?
It's a 2019 KTM 450.
And any tweaks to the engine, ECU, anything, or is it stock?
Oh yeah, I mean I have all the heat management stuff on it. I have an FMF exhaust on it. That's pretty much it. Just all the typical snowbike stuff, big thick seat and big handlebars and big headlight and all that. But yeah, 120 hours on that bike. It's done nothing but develop product. It hasn't been used for validation riding, so it doesn't have like hundreds and hundreds of hours on it. And in that time and 4 years of product development of different things, that bike's never had a single glitch of any kind.
That's awesome, man. Can't complain about that. So you mentioned something real quick about the testing that went into this, and something that I thought was really interesting when we talked the other day that I think you should elaborate on this call is how you built this. Because you basically you just started building it and there was no computer. You just started cutting and hacking and making your thing, dude.
Yeah, I do it backwards of anybody else. So have full engineering capabilities, but that's not how I develop parts. I build prototypes and then I engineer it. So I got to prove my concept first. And I'm just really good at working with metal and machines and lathes and all that. And I can get to the punchline much quicker.
What sort of
concept? Then I engineer it.
Yeah. What sort of timeline on that was, from the time you started?
So remember, I have nothing, right? I have a shop. I don't have any archive of parts to work off of. I had to literally figure out everything, every single part. And it took me from June of 21 all the way to November, middle of November 2021 to finish that kit. And of course, we didn't really have snow at that time, so there was a couple weeks I didn't have snow yet. And as soon as there was enough snow, I took it out riding for the first time.
Damn, dude. So solid 5
months. In that time though, as we put it together, and I say we, it's like the guy that works for me, Aaron, he does engineering as well. And so he and I, from the engineering standpoint, as I was finishing the hand-built prototype, we were also starting to do engineering on parts themselves. So that is kind of like a crossover there with hand building of parts to engineering to then building a basically I would call it a machine made kit, basically with using all the manufacturing resources.
Got it.
And that's the other thing you probably need to know. I'm not this time around, I'm not manufacturing anything. Everything is sourced. So I have
everything is what?
We source everything. So we have machine shops that build all the machine parts. I have a welding shop that builds all the welded goods. I have laser cutters. So these are all shops that are, building parts for this kit all over the Pacific Northwest. So
yeah,
most everything's made in Idaho and Montana and Washington.
Yeah, it's important for people to know this thing's, it's all made in the U.S., right?
Yeah, our slogan, and Donald Trump's going to probably want this from me, but it's made in America by Americans making American wages. So we tell people that, complain about the price that, made in America sounds great until they find out exactly how much that costs. And then they're like, give me the Chinese stuff.
Right.
No, this thing's all made right here. Every part. The only part that's not made there are things that we buy, like chains and bearings.
And the track, I imagine.
No, track's made in the U.S.
Oh, right.
Camso is made in New York.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that not only is it made in the U.S., but tell us a little bit about who's assembling everything there.
Well, you're going to laugh. We don't have much of a crew, so we're obviously starting off small. And we got quite a few kits we're putting together, but it's basically Rush and I here putting these together. We have to work some pretty long hours because we work approximately 8 hours a day just doing office related things. And then we assemble mornings, evenings, weekends. So yeah, when you get a box from us, it's physically been worked on by he and I.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of help. I get a little bit of help from neighbors and friends, but yeah, everybody's kind of just part-time and helping me get going. Cause like I said, I'm starting from the rock bottom. So we're working right here in the gutters.
Yeah. And you're down there in Idaho Falls out of your shop, right?
Yep. Idaho Falls.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do most of our testing in the local area, the Rexburg Bench, which are pretty heavy-duty Rocky Mountains next to the Tetons. We do a lot of testing up in Island Park, where I have a cabin. So we stay up there. I do a lot of testing up there, and we do a lot of testing out of the Flathead up there where you're at. You would never see us, but we're up there. So we probably did a total
There's a lot of
four solid weeks of riding up there this year.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? Because I'm sure some people are wondering, well, has this all been tested? And talk about how many hours.
I don't want to reveal any riding secrets.
No riding secrets. Every time I post a video, they're like, where is this at? And I say, it's Northwest Montana.
Yeah.
Book a ride with us, and we'll take you out. So talk to us about how many hours you guys spent testing, the kit.
Okay, so once we get on what we call production prototypes, which would be kits. Well, this is a production prototype here. It's all powder coated. It has we've updated it with stickers and made it all good again. But we do our validation on what we call production prototypes. So they're like production intent kits. And so we put, it's hard to say exactly. So because we have quite a few different bikes, approximately 60 to 100 hours per bike, per kit.
In total, I think you were saying something like 250 hours total, right?
Yeah, we try to, we want 250 total hours on anything that's validation. That's not 250 hours on one kit, it's multiple.
Right.
Kits.
Just in total.
But I can tell you, not this bike, but one of the other bikes here in the room, we put, that bike had 80 hours on it. And, at the end of the year, obviously we upkeep them. We don't just not do our maintenance. So we do upkeep them. We pulled it down and checked everything on it. It certainly had some wear and some items like chains and chain sliders, but nothing was wore out on that kit. And we repowder coated it and put it back together using all the original parts. I mean, the bearings, you couldn't tell the difference between a bearing with 80 hours on it and a bearing that didn't have any hours on it. It felt the same. So it's a pretty sturdy kit, and I think it's got a long lifespan to it as long as you take care of it. It just doesn't have parts that wears out. It's not temperamental, like drivetrain bolts don't come loose and stuff doesn't rattle out of it. It's pretty solid that way.
Yeah, I can only imagine it's very, very solid coming from you, dude. So I'm as people are on here, I told them go ahead and just start asking questions, guys. We're not gonna go through them all yet, but I'm going through and I'm clicking on them to star so we can go back. And the ones that aren't dumb questions, we'll run through with Alan. And I only mean dumb just because, as you can imagine,
I like the dumb questions too because there's an answer for all of them.
As they say, there's no stupid questions.
So
right?
Ask the dumb ones too. Unless
it's on the website, go read about it first. If you haven't read about the kit yet, then go do that first, and then ask questions. And there's some really good questions in here. So I think what we can do is, Alan, Matt, was there anything else before we get into some of this stuff that you can think of?
No, I did notice a lot of people asking questions about the chain, and adjustment and stuff.
Yeah. So we'll go through the questions here. But I mean, anything else before we get to questions you can think of? So I want to bring on. I've got two people that you know very well, Alan. We've got Darren Teal and Riley Will from BRC Racing, and I thought it'd be fun to bring on. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to bring on Darren here as one of we go here to the riders. You guys can see, if you don't know who Darren Teal is, go check him out on Instagram. He's an Idaho boy too. So just so you guys know, it must be something about the Idaho blood. So I grew up in Idaho. Alan's obviously from Idaho. Matt's from Boise. Darren's from Idaho. Riley, you're the outcast, man. You're up in Canada. So Two Moto was in Idaho. I mean, Idaho has like the roots of snow biking. It's pretty awesome. So I think that's pretty neat. So I want to bring in Darren real quick here. So Darren, you have been riding out for Timbersled, or you rode for Timbersled for how long?
I was a Timbersled ambassador for 3 years. Prior to that, I was pretty much a Timbersled customer the entire time that they were Timbersled as people know them. Even prior to that, when I had a snowmobile, I had Alan's bar risers, the Timbersled intake, all the little Timbersled gadgets that existed before Timbersled snow bikes I had on my sled. So I've been a customer for a long time.
But you said go back further than that, Darren, because you've been riding these things longer than all of us. Yeah.
Before the first mountain horse came out, I had a Two Moto, and I was telling Kyle earlier today, I was really proud of that and really excited about it. And then Alan showed up at a snow bike race or snowmobile race in Schweitzer, and I got to see the mountain horse prototype. And after everybody left, he let me take it for a spin around the parking lot there. And me and all my buddies, I think, ordered one that day. So I was kind of been there from the start. So it's exciting to be back as a mountaintop rider here.
That was the moment you knew you were a snow biker now, huh? For life.
Yeah, for sure.
So Two Moto, and then you start riding Timbersled as soon as he launches it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he even used my bike to help verify fit kits. So
that's awesome. So Darren, you are now going to be, obviously, you're riding Alan's kit. Have you got to do, we haven't even talked about this, but have you got to do any testing on it yet?
I got to spend a day on it, a day and in one of my favorite areas. So it's really good to compare it to what I'm used to, which last year I was on a Riot 3 Pro. So I got to compare it directly to that kit on a KTM, so pretty good comparison. And I'm sure as everybody's seeing right now, just kind of blown away with the details and the innovation that Alan brought with this kit. And then getting out and riding it made it an easy choice. It works phenomenal.
Yeah, so tell us, being a Riot 3 rider before, what was the immediate differences that you noticed right out of the gate?
Probably the first thing I remember really being like, wow, this is crazy, was we just barely left the parking lot and I hit the throttle just a little bit, and there's no weight on that ski on the mountaintop. It picks it up instantly, and it doesn't have that, I call it almost suction cup to the ground feel that a typical snow bike does. The ski's very light and it turns very easily. It lifts very easily, but then it stays controlled. It doesn't lift and wheelie out of control. It just kind of stays controlled and planted and drives forward. And I noticed that 10 feet from the gravel. It's the first thing you really feel on that kit.
Yeah, I think Alan, you had mentioned something about roughly it's 50% lighter front ski feel. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Well, I tried to put number to all that.
Yeah.
And it's approximately 50%. Don't quote me on that exactly. But what we do is to know exactly, we have scales. So I put two scales one under the front, one under the rear, and one under the ski. We use digital race car scales. So it sits, I'd have to look at my numbers. I think it sits at around 100 and I want to tell you, and I have to look it up here because I can't remember. I'll tell you the difference. But it's 120 pounds. It's about 50%. And so when you sit on it, it also 50% of your body weight, not more than 50%, but if you compare it in percentages to anything else, 50% more of that weight sits on the track versus the ski. So when the bike's just sitting there, it doesn't really, sag down and weight the ski.
Yeah.
So, but when you ride it, that's when you notice it, right? Because it just doesn't feel like there's just no steering effort there. So it's a lot lighter on the steering. That's the first thing you notice, is it just doesn't have weight. And that's not just going up the hill. I gotta say, we're light on the front end too, but yeah, they are going up the hill, but not going down the hill. They're going ski weight triples when it goes down the hill. On this
explain that. Explain that, Alan, how you were able to achieve that light ski feel going downhill.
Well, so for one, it's hard to not compare to your competitors, but unfortunately, this is what we have to do.
That's what
if you measure to any other snow bike kit, and you measure from wherever you want to, from the foot peg or from the drive axle back, our skid is mounted 5 inches farther forward. So it's basically mounted so far forward, it just barely clears the drive wheel. So it's right up to the drive wheel. And then if you look at where the rear track shock is, it's kind of right under the back of the seat. And so, mounts farther forward. And then we have this linkage rear suspension, which is different than any other snow bike. So this suspension is more like a snowmobile suspension. If you look at a snowmobile, any snowmobile is going to have a similar linkage rear arm. So you'll see the horizontal shock and then the little rods either next to or under the shock. That's what those are. So that system provides a push-pull action to the shock. So the reason the snowmobile manufacturers use a suspension like that is because they transfer weight to the skid and not to the ski. So if you drive a new snowmobile, they're incredibly easy to steer. This is the same exact concept. It's very soft at the top of the yoke, and it have a lot of push from the back of the track. So all vertical suspensions, and I'm not really referring to the Riot because it's a little bit of a different animal, but like an Arrow or a Yeti or really anything. CMX also uses a linkage rear arm. They don't put a lot of emphasis in it, but they do, and it's one reason they ride so light on the front end as well. But yeah, it just creates an extra soft rear suspension arm that when you sit on it, the weight is more so on the front track shock than the rear shock, and it's because the rear shock is soft and supple. And you couple that with the forward mounting, and so now it just doesn't sit heavy on the ski. It's this kit's not mounted farther forward, just the suspension is.
So, I mean, is it safe to say then this is really like the blending of snowmobile technology with snowbike technology to make the best, I mean, ultimately one of the best feeling kits out there, it sounds like?
Well, we like to think so, but when you ride it, yeah, it feels different to you. It's not the same. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. So Darren, what's your thoughts on that then? As you know, when you jumped on it, you've got 1 day riding on it. How would you kind of compare it then?
I've been really struggling with. Everyone wants to compare to a Riot 3 or an Arrow 3, and
right.
It's really hard to compare. It's just different, and it's very adjustable, is what we found, or is what Alan showed me when we were out there. It was something I could hop on and almost instantly be very confident on. It's controllable. It turns very quickly. It dives in and out of the trees very quickly. With the suspension settings I started out on, is very controllable. It climbed really well. Throughout the day, we kind of changed some of that up and made it a little more playful, which I like. And I think that involved like taking a few pounds of air out of the rear shock, and it became a very fun, a very rowdy kit that, I went to go do some wheelie turns on it, and it literally jumped off the snow and rotated around and landed on my head the first time, and then somehow it came around, and then I just sort of rode out of, like, it was not only in suspension, like mounted further forward, take weight off the ski, but it also brings that center of gravity closer, so when you jump it doesn't feel like you have this giant weight dragging behind you. It stays flat in the air. When you're doing wheelie turns, it rotates around very quickly and easily. It's really fun. I can't wait for people to check it out.
Dude, I cannot wait. And coming from a guy where I was never really into wheelies or anything, last season I started doing those a little more, and so I'm excited to try out this kit. So you're talking about, I know you're like, it's hard to compare or whatever, but I think for the sake of what we're doing here, we kind of have to compare it, right? Because so most people are riding or they have ridden, and everybody wants to know, well, what's the difference? How does it feel different? And just for everybody watching now, that's going to be one of the things that, myself, we're really going to be trying to do, and I'm sure other dealers, but not only are we going to, we're working with Penco on some stuff this season, one of the dealers up here in Kalispell, but we're going to have at least one of these kits, possibly more. We'll see how some things go. And so you'll be able to come up and ride, if you want to book a tour and come up and try them out. We're going to do a demo day as well. But that way you can really test them side by side, so people can, we can sit here and talk and debate and all this jazz. But at the end of the day, when we all jump on a kit and ride it, that's the proof's in the pudding, right?
So I can explain what you're going to feel a little bit. I know you want to ride it, and we don't have snow to go ride it yet. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. So we definitely, every time we go out, we have a Riot with us. So we're constantly comparing just to, know what our benchmark is. But they both have a pretty desirable character, just in a different way. So the best way to describe it is the Arrow, when it goes into a wheelie, it feels like it's being pulled into a wheelie. It feels like somebody's pulling you up by the ski loop, and it pulls these big wheelies. Our kit feels more like it's being pushed into a wheelie. A lot of that depends on how you have the suspension tuned, because it is a tunable suspension. You can kind of tune it to keep the skis down, or you can tune it to be really rowdy. But it skips over things very easily. So say you got a downhill and then there's a creek at the bottom and you need to cross that creek and you're going downhill. It doesn't take a ton of throttle for it to lightly lift the ski and skip over it. Or you have two logs that are in the snow and you want to kind of skip the ski off the first one and then go right over the second one. It will do that with very little input. It'll almost do it with just rider input, even more as much as it will do it with throttle input. Where the Riot, it'll skip over it too, but you kind of have to goose it before you get there. Otherwise, it wants to drive the ski between the log versus just skip it over. So you kind of tend to start riding this mountaintop kit, and you skip over things a lot. Like that ski doesn't go down and through every imperfection. You get really used to it, but because it's so light on the front end, you got to change your tactics just a little bit. Some guys are going to go, push the front end. No, it doesn't push the front end. It just feels light on the front end. You don't just bullishly steer it. You steer a lot with lean. And so you take the forward mounting position, suspension, the narrow rails, light on the ski. It's got a lot of rear steer. You can lean into a corner and the back end will not slide out. It just comes around on you much, much easier, much differently. So you got to adjust your riding.
Yeah, when you say you got to adjust how you ride, I can't imagine it's some huge adjustment, right? If you're a snow biker, you're gonna figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, it takes a couple minutes. That's about it. But yeah. You start doing things the same as you do on another, and quickly realize, well, I can do this differently. So, that's the beauty of something new. It's not exactly the same.
So going to the design, so Darren, when you first saw the design, jump on it, what was your initial thoughts, man?
First seeing it, it's a lot to take in. From afar, it looks like your average snow bike kit. It's not terribly different. It's built sort of similar. And then once you start diving into the details and how things work is where this kit really starts to stand out. It's impressive. The way it mounts, the linkage-driven rear suspension, and then the third shock is also linkage-driven, and it's tucked up in there nicely. You don't even see it at first glance. It's just in there. The drive system, I've been taking some pictures of this kit from looking straight down on it, mounted on my new KTM, and you don't even see it. Like, it's no longer, you're not riding pigeon-toed anymore because the chain case is so wide. This is all kind of tucked underneath the number plates. It's pretty crazy for a 12-inch wide kit.
Yeah, that was the one thing. And when we talked to Alan the other day, you'll notice, guys, this kit, it's basically 12. The track's 12 inches. It's barely wider than the track. There's no big chain case sticking out there. And these are some of the things, guys, that you may not realize. And there's a lot of little details that as we went through this, Alan, it was like, oh, I never would have thought of that. Never would have realized. But you thought through all of those things.
Even right down to the integrated fork boots. We've been in this sport for 12 years now, and nobody's thought of that yet. But man, something we needed for sure.
Yeah, I think I've seen a few comments on that, like no more broken fork guards. And I don't know what it is. I can't keep a left front fork guard to save my life. It's just like gone my first or second ride. So we'll see if these things hold up. So, well, Darren, I want to bring and Alan, I want to bring Riley into this real quick too. Riley, are you there? Can you hear us? I see that he's on here. Let me add him in. So, all right. So we got everybody here. So For those of you guys who don't know who Riley Will is, you'll know soon. So Riley Will has the BRC 500 two-stroke motor, goes on the 300, the KTM 300, and we've got some hopefully exciting stuff to come soon. But Riley's worked with Alan for a long time. So Riley, what did you think when you saw this, man?
Well, first when I caught wind that Alan was back in the game, got super excited for Alan and his family. They've been doing this forever. It's his life's passion, and we're all the benefactors of that innovation and hard work. So, instantly I'm like, Alan, that I need one. So I hope I'm on that list.
He's on the list.
But no, it's just awesome to see the progression of snowbiking, the innovations that are coming. And I guess it's no mistake that, Alan's being another innovator again, leading by example. So definitely puts his money where his mouth is and reinvests in himself. So it's just awesome to see.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're a legend, bro. I can't hear you, Kyle.
Sorry. Yeah, I was muted there. Sorry. I was just saying that you can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
So I was saying that, we got to get Alan up here on a two-stroke, because he said up to this point they have not put the kit on a two-stroke yet, right, Alan?
I haven't. The only two-stroke I've ridden in quite a few years was when I took your bike for a ride at the cow tag event. And I gotta admit, I love the feel of the two-stroke because it's just such a smooth power band and it locks onto the pipe. And I haven't had an opportunity to have one of Riley's motors yet, but I will here as soon as I sell enough kits to afford one.
Right? Yeah.
But I've ridden these 4-strokes because I'm so focused on developing the kit. I don't even have my own hot rod. It's all my bikes are just stock, bikes that are new enough to not break down.
Well, I have a nagging suspicion we're going to be riding a 500, a BRC 500 with Alan's kit this season. So we're gonna figure it out, make it happen. I know I'm super pumped for that. We'll get you down on one too, Riley.
Well, definitely looking forward to it. And, for people that have obviously I'm a big proponent of two-strokes and, the way they make their power, the lightweight, where they carry their weight, which is a lot lower center of gravity. It all kind of complements anything that is already good handling. When you go to a two-stroke power plant, it just accentuates those nice characteristics. You may find this a little bit less fatiguing on your day. If you're in for that playful ride feel, I think a two-stroke really complements that as well. Personally, I like the sound of a two-stroke better than I like the bark and the hit of a 4-stroke, especially following them. The acoustic hit off of my chest and eardrums can be deafening.
Yeah,
especially
you can't beat the two-stroke smell either.
Yeah. So we're not burning castor oil, but I tell you, I wouldn't mind. That's the best ever. That and bacon grease, eh?
Amsoil needs to come out with a bacon grease two-stroke smell oil. That would be badass. What'd you say?
I said that would sell.
Oh, it would, man. Especially to the snowbikers and the snowmobilers. So, Riley, you said something that talking about the light feel of it. I know when last season with my tours, it was like overwhelming, especially new riders. 80+% of them loved the two-stroke feel more so than the 4-stroke feel. And I think for anybody that's a hardcore snowbiker, yes, but doesn't have that hit power. And so I found myself really wanting that 2-stroke or the 4-stroke feel after a couple rides. So that's why I think marrying your engine with Alan's kit and the efficiency on it, dude, I don't even know what it's going to be like. It's going to be amazing.
Well, here's the difference when you're talking about the actual production 2-strokes versus 4-strokes. So I think we can all agree that the KTM power plant, whether it's KTM gas or Husky, in the 300cc form, that's what guys, you're not going to put on most guys aren't going to put a track kit on anything less than that. There are guys that do it and do it successfully, but they're typically an overbow or something like that. The 2-stroke, they make actually about the same amount of torque, if not sometimes a little bit more torque than the 4-stroke. The difference being is that a 4-stroke will come right off of idle and come up to peak torque and be a straight line for about double the RPM. So you're going, all right, well, how is a 2-stroke going to compete with that? And well, of course, as you know, our answer is to add CCs. And in doing so, we've measured up a whole bunch of different engines on our dyno. And I hate talking about dyno numbers because everybody wants to battle you on, that's too much, that's not enough. At the end of the day, it's just a good comparative. And
yeah,
so, you got your 450 stuff and they're making, 36 foot-pounds of torque, maybe a bit more sometimes, depending on the tune. You're going to pump up compression and whatnot. Yeah, you can get that in the 40s. They become a little bit potentially less reliable. Now, a 500cc engine kit. So we purport that our kits make 60 plus horsepower and 50 plus foot-pounds of torque. It would be a pretty poor build to make just those numbers. Just recently with our actually doing some snow bike development up here, we've seen as much as 77.5 horsepower and 64 foot-pounds of torque. So when you're dealing with half the RPM range, it's that build of torque that the 2-stroke guys gravitate towards because it's not so drony. It's not such a flat line of torque. And so when you're coming into the power and the pipe's starting to work real good and you get that rush. And to me, that's, super rewarding, super exciting.
I think any snow biker, 100% can relate, right? We all get that rush. You just hit it, man, and off you go, warp speed.
And so what we find is that with our internal gearing and whatnot, is we're able to generate track speed because we have more torque very, very quickly. And the bike kind of feels like a boat coming out of the water where it gets up on top of the snow quite quickly. So your ski's not pushing as much snow. And it's like you're planing on a boat. And then you just start, depending on snow conditions, of course, but then you just start hooking gears. And one of the best compliments I got was one from some of my riding buddies that good friends of mine, and as good friends do, they kind of love for nothing more than to see me step on my own dick. And so when
compliment,
it's a compliment, you said, Alan?
Could be.
so they've been obviously with us since day one of the first 500 kits and rode everything and critique it and whatnot. And when we came out with our next gen KTM kit, we listened to what people wanted and we put more power down low and all that kind of stuff, but trying to keep the same mid-range and top end characteristics that everybody liked in the first gen. And so my buddy goes and rides it as a snow bike first, and he gets off it. He's like, that thing's amazing. I can't believe, it just goes and you accelerate everywhere. You're not just droning everywhere. You're accelerating all the time. I said, yeah, it's pretty cool. He goes, it's never going to work for a dirt bike. No, that's unrideable.
Yeah.
And I think, Kyle, you had a little bit of an experience very, very recently that you could probably put your 2 cents on that. But he did take it out as a dirt bike. And because, of course, he's trying to talk himself into not buying one. And he took it out as a dirt bike. I think not once, not twice, but I think 3 times trying to find fault with it. And he found that the tractability of the 500 kit and the luggability of it allowed him to do technical sections even better than his Husky 300. So
Yep.
I know we're talking about snow bikes here, but it's just I wanted to touch on the differences in the power delivery between 4-stroke and 2-stroke, and it's rider preference. They're all great stuff.
Totally. And I think what would be awesome. I think what would be awesome too is we're gonna have to do another one with just 4-stroke, 2-stroke. That'll be a fun conversation, a fun debate, I think too. But I'm excited to get one of your motors and throw Alan's kit on it, and we're gonna get out there and rip. And yeah, man. Well, thanks Riley for joining in, dude, and appreciate your 2 cents. And I know we're all pumped to go ride Alan's kit here soon.
I can't wait to try Alan's kit this year. I think it's going to complement the way I ride, and our power plant is going to complement Alan's engineering. So looking forward to it, Alan. Thank you.
Riley, from one engineer to another, what questions do you have for Alan? I'd really like to hear these.
Oh, questions. How do you like your supply chain issues? The price of labor.
Price of aluminum. The per pound price of aluminum is really awesome. Right in line with our prices.
I just got today one of our international vendors. Their energy has gone up 200% and materials gone up 40%. So expect a 30% increase in our pricing. So, yay!
Yeah, it's funny you're talking about price. I think some people see this price point, and I'm showing it over here. They see $9,500. Well, guys, I'm just going to tell you this without anybody else even jumping in here. Look at what the cost of any new snowbike kit is, and then especially on the Timbersled side, you add in a Trio, you add in a TSS, and that you don't need any of those on the Mountaintop kit, as far as I understand it. So, Alan, why don't we kind of get into some of this? And thanks again, Riley. I'll let Riley jump off, and Darren, thanks again for jumping on. I'll let you guys jump off, and we'll get into real quick. I know people got a million questions here for Alan, so we'll get into the questions and get rolling. So, thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks guys.
Riley.
See you later.
Congratulations, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Alan, let's get into real quick. From my understanding, no Trio, and you don't need any TSS. I see a couple of questions people are asking that. You want to walk through why you don't need that now?
All right. Well, so let's talk about the front end, because nobody wants to believe it, but you do not need a Trio. Some guys may modify their forks, but if they do, it's because they're jumping or whatnot. So we run motocross bikes, and so the motocross fork is perfectly adequate. I don't ever bottom my front end out. I don't ever bottom it out. If you
completely stock, right?
Completely stock. We don't even jack the air pressure up. So we run on these KTMs. We run 160 psi, which is the factory recommended air pressure setting. And in most rides, if you put a zip tie on your fork, or you watch where your fork seals are going down to, most of the time on an average ride, you'll realize you haven't used the last 3 inches of fork in a whole ride. So you don't need to buy a Trio. Now we have requests for putting Trios on. We will probably come up with a kit to be able to adapt it, but it's not necessary. It'll just ride really rough because it'll be way too much front end for it. So you save a bunch of weight. So we start talking about price and weight. I don't know what you want to compare it to, but what we've been comparing to is the Riot, because this is a pretty athletic kit. It's extremely athletic when you're comparing it to an Aero. but we feel like we have tunability to accommodate both styles of riding in one kit. So I think that's part of the beauty of this. But price-wise, I mean, you take the price of a comparable kit, which would be the Riot 3 Pro, the price of a TSS Fit kit. You guys still there?
Yep, I just have myself muted, so there's no background noise.
Okay, I thought you bleeped off there because I lost you on the screen.
No.
You take the price of a TSS Fit kit, the price of a Trio, and the mount for the Trio, and you're $97.59, and we're $9,500. So
there you go, guys. Everybody's sitting here. Oh, what's the price? There. I mean, that's it. That's the numbers.
So, and on a Timbersled, and again, I'm not bashing them. I mean, I'm friends with the company. We're on good terms. I don't want them to think I'm bashing them, but I am comparing facts. So price-wise, they're $97.59 if you compare everything that you need to operate the bike correctly, and they're 150 pounds, 150.3 pounds on a complete kit with all of those parts, and we're 129 pounds. So our 129 kit weighs 129 pounds. That includes the track kit, the ski, the spindle, the fork guards, everything it takes to mount it onto the kit. So if you start comparing apples to apples, yeah, about 20 pounds lighter and $250 cheaper.
Yeah.
It's just we put out this shocking price where their price is buried because you have to add up the parts.
Yeah. For everybody listening, the 9,500 includes the fit kit, and on the front, you don't even need a fit kit for your spindle or for any bike, right?
No, it has a fit kit, but the fit kit's real simple, and it's included in the price of the kit. So the fitment parts, there are no fitment parts for the spindle assembly. That's entirely universal.
That's what I mean.
And the rear, it's just some spacers for your swing arm, some reducers for your upper shock mount, and then your strut rod.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Well, I'm going to get into some of these questions. I'm going to actually show them here for you, Alan. So they're going to pop up on the screen. So as they pop up, you should be able to see them there. You see that question from David Lawrence?
Okay, yeah. The chain adjustment?
Yeah.
So he's asking if it can be easily done in the field.
Yeah.
So the chain adjustment is all done from the left-hand side of the kit. You need a 13 millimeter and you need a 17 millimeter. So you can use end wrenches or you can use, you need an 17 millimeter end wrench or a crescent wrench. And you need a 13 millimeter either end wrench, like a box open end wrench, or I use a wobble socket, like a universal joint socket. I can get to all the nuts with a socket, but it has to be a universal joint socket. It can't be a straight socket, or it can be an open end wrench. So those are the only two components you need, and you can do it all from one side of the kit, sitting there at what we call the jack shaft hub. And that jack shaft hub has studs. Once you take the bolts loose, it has studs to lift it up, and it has another bolt adjustment to pull it back. So it adjusts both directions, and each adjustment is independent from each other. So they're not all on the same, like, concentric. So they adjust horizontally or vertically.
Yeah, exactly. The alignment of it, right?
Well, when you want to adjust the engine chain, you take the two bolts loose to adjust the hub up. If you want to adjust the engine chain, you take the 8 nuts loose to adjust it back.
Got it.
So they're separate adjustments.
Got it. So if anybody has any other further questions on that, feel free to post it. Here's another one, Alan. I knew this was going to be a question pretty quick.
Yep. So will there be a belt drive option? It is possible to build a belt drive for this kit. We currently we don't have plans to offer one, but I certainly would like to work with somebody like TKI to maybe develop one. But I just don't feel that it's much of an advantage. I don't know why people think there's such an advantage. I do know the difference in a belt drive, and I'll get argued with this, but there is no efficiency gain to a belt drive. There's more of an efficiency loss, in my opinion. And it's not because the belt is less efficient. It's because the cover sticks out so far and drags through the snow. Our kit is extremely slender. Our kit is the narrowest kit on the market. And when you take a tape measure to it, you'll come to realize that.
What is the width of it?
Well, it's the widest width is 14 inches wide, but it's the same overall width as a Timbersled kit with 11.5-inch wide track, and we have a 12-inch wide track.
Got it. So there you go, guys.
That's comparing a chain drive, not to a belt drive. That's going to be way wider.
Right.
So there's another thing. If you take a look at the website and you really study up the drive system, you'll kind of begin to understand why we don't have a belt drive. All the components are extremely lightweight. You can just go to the drive section that says drive and go through all those slides. It is the biggest set of slides on the website, but it'll explain why everything's efficient, why it's lightweight. So we try to reduce the rotating weight. And it's pounds lighter when you compare rotating weight. The other thing is the chains. The chains always run in a straight path, and these chains are much shorter than any other kit. Our chain case chain, which would be where you would end up having the belt, is only 48 lengths long. That thing's tiny. And you can't tell me that putting a belt on there is going to make it any freer. That thing spins so free, like when we test it like with a drill motor, I mean, it doesn't draw the motor down at all. Like it'll just spin a drill, it'll spin it at top speed, without the track hook to it, with no drag on it.
Why all the big noise about belt drive? Like, why do you think there's just such this, huge, like, oh, belt drive is the best, it's the best?
Well, I'm not real sure, but they do have a little bit more of a connected feel. Like as far as the belt's tight, it doesn't have any slack in it. And our chains are really quiet because there's no chain sliders, and so the belt drives are also really quiet and smooth. But we don't have any chain sliders, as you can see in that picture on the screen. There's nothing pushing on the chain, so it spins around there pretty freely. So really, to put a belt drive on there, we would have to add, an 1.5 inches to 2 inches in width for a cover and a belt inside that cover. So those are all our reasons. We think we have it very efficient, and when you ride it, you'll feel those efficiency things. It whole shot's really nice, and it lifts and builds track speed really good. And it can pull, well, we think it pulls a gear higher, and it does, because we compare it to other bikes that we have with us, and it does. It will literally pull third gear from a dead stop on a hill. You can't do that with anything else that I know of. And our gearing, we measure gearing a certain way. And so everybody's like, well, you've got the same gearing. Well, yeah, we do. There's a way to test gearing. And I'll just tell you what it is, because I do want to do a video on this, but we don't measure gearing via track rollout or via gear ratio. We measure it via track rollout. So how we test it is we basically do one revolution on the engine sprocket to inches of track rollout on the kit. So you start comparing that, and everybody's got a different gearing setup, but if you measure all the different kits, they're going to be geared really similar. Within if you get 12.5 inches of track rollout, or a 12 inches or whatever it is, they're all going to be within a 1/2 inch of each other as far as gearing goes.
Yeah, so it's not a huge difference there, huh?
Well, they're all within about an 1/8 inch of each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all geared the same. So when you start talking about what gear can you pull on the bike, you're really comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Because the track rollout on them is relatively the same.
Well, so yeah, I think you've answered that question. I'll say just one thing that's nice about chain is you can get snow in it and it doesn't pop off the cog.
Well, that's the other thing. These are 100% reliable.
Yeah.
Never had a failure and probably never will.
Yeah.
These things, as long as you're maintaining them, which most guys do, you can ride these things thousands of miles and never have a single issue.
Yep. Yeah. Chain is proven, man. Well, here's another question. This is, again, we knew this was coming. You talk about this, the 3-inch. I think you even had something on here about it, right? The 3-inch. Oh, here we go.
Go under the track section.
Yeah, right here.
It's the last slide.
Here we go.
So we have full intentions of coming out with a 3-inch track. We're not hiding it because we're in process with this, and scheduling and supply chain delays and everything has prevented this track from being available. But this kit is platformed to accept a 3-inch track. You'll change the driver because it's a different pitch, but it goes right on this kit. So we are a little bit glad we went this route because we've learned so much about 2.5-inch tracks over what we knew, because we were also blinded by 3-inch tracks. But man, there's some serious performance advantages to a properly designed 2.5-inch track. And when we do our 3-inch, it'll be a similar design in 3-inch. We hope to have that out for next year, providing our schedules don't get pushed off. But this 3-inch track stuff, it's not easy business. It's not like building a 2.5. There's a reason why there's nobody else other than Timbersled has a 3-inch track, and it has to do with the complications of building the track and the costs associated with building the track. It's not the same as building these 2.5s. They're much easier.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting when we were talking about that. A lot of people just think like, well, what the hell? Why isn't there a 3-inch track? It's like there's way more to it than just popping out a freaking 3-inch track. Like you said, there's millions of dollars of tooling in the machine and everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's 2-year lead time on doing the project. So yeah, pretty big project, but I'm biting it off. And if it bankrupts me, I'm going to have at least I'm going to be able to take a 3-inch track in the living room with me and sit with it.
Right? Go big or go home. And
that's right. So we know we have to have it, but we're going to have 2 really nice offerings. We're going to have a very modern 2.5-inch track. There's a lot of customers for those, and we're going to have a very modern 3-inch track. And so now we're very up to date on our tracks. We don't have all our eggs in one basket.
Well, I know that a lot of people are wondering about that, and you can put a 3-inch track on it now, right? That was one thing that I think you talk about in here.
Yeah, so we'll offer a driver, and you'll be able to put Timbersled's new 3-inch track on there, and you'll have to get the driver from us because it's a special made driver. So we'll have different drivers made. So we'll distribute those out through the dealers and the customers that want them.
Cool. So advantages, disadvantages of the 2.5 versus 3. I think we should just have that conversation right now, Alan, because I know that, like you said, the 2.5 is awesome.
So 3-inch is a lot of traction, a lot of hole shot power. You're in a tree hole. You have to turn, go uphill, crest the tree well, and then continue on. The 3-inch is going to excel in that. Just has a, like your 100% connected feel. But the 2.5 is going to outspeed it every time. So in more conditions than not, the 3-inch is going to outpull it on the hill. The reason is because it can hold third gear while you're climbing, and the 3-inch is going to get restricted to first gear or even second gear at most. So you're obviously pulling more track speed in third gear. Well, the reason you can pull track speed in third gear is because you can go from a dead stop. The track won't bog the motor out, where the 3-inch will bog the motor out if you bounce it hard enough in the snow. So that's why you got to be in a gear that it won't bog the motor out. So if you get in a side-by-side race up the hill, you're both wide open, they're pretty even. The 3-inch might pull the 2.5 if you're just building the speed up, but then the 2.5 catches up, and as if you can stop bouncing the bike in the snow, and you got a clean hillside, within 50 feet, it's going to pass it. So maybe there's some deep snow conditions where that doesn't happen, but all the snow conditions that we tested in, which was the last half of the winter, that was very much so the case. And I'm not blowing smoke. That's just what happened. And it didn't happen on one day. It happened on every day. So multiple snow conditions. So that's what you can expect. Now, this track's a little different than any other track. We call this a 4-paddle design. So we have 4 paddles. Yeah, there you go. 4 paddles. So you go from left to right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's a repeating pattern. The whole point of that track is a smoother rotation. So it's more balanced in the sense that it has more paddles connecting to the ground. And in a track design, you don't want snow escaping the track. So you don't want it to be sliding or being pushed out the side of the paddles. 2-paddle tracks are a little bit that way. 3-paddle tracks, which is like a Timbersled track, are really good. Overall, they're the best. And now this. So this has just stemmed from my years of being involved in quite a few track projects and, learning thises and that's and noticing things through all of that. So this track it's got a pretty good scoop to the paddle. The paddles are stiff, but they're flexible. You got a big outside paddle that does all the digging, and you got those smaller inside paddles that prevent or promote the track speed. And they're all designed to keep the snow in the track and not let the snow being used as traction escape.
Yeah, and you want to talk about the durometer, like you're talking about the hardness and stuff of the track?
Yeah. So this is a multi-durometer track. There's not very many tracks out there that are multi-durometer, but the technology in this track's brand new.
So Alan, come that down for us dumb snowbikers and for people who don't know. Explain what a durometer and multi-durometer track means.
So durometer, so we're 80 durometer. Durometer is the hardness of rubber. So if you take a look at a ski rubber that goes underneath your ski, they'll measure that in durometer. So 70 durometer being a softer rubber, 80 durometer being a harder rubber. So all tracks, snowmobile or snowbike, are 80 durometer. Now, what's different about this track is the belt itself is 90 durometer. Just the belt, not the paddle. The paddle's still 80 durometer. So the reason for that is as tracks have progressed, we have made the tracks thinner and thinner through history. So even the snowmobiles are all running what they call single ply tracks. You probably heard that term. Well, the issue with them is they don't have a ton of belting in them, and the base of the track, the belt of the track can fold over and aid in how easy the paddle folds over. So you look at some machines as they sit on the ground, the paddles will be folded clean over, depending on how much weight's on them. So the idea behind this is it supports the paddle with a stiffer belt. And what you want for lift in a track, you want a paddle that can flex, but you don't want it to fold over. So this is an extremely lightweight track. It's only 34 pounds. It's about a pound heavier than a Yeti's track, but this track is very lightweight and it's very rigid, and it's a strong track. You're not knocking paddles off this thing, and you're not wounding it, and it's not a piece of junk after 1 year. You don't have cracked paddles and stuff. So it just allows the paddle to flex without folding the base of the paddle over, because it's a harder, stronger rubber in the base. Now, we pay more for that track. It doesn't come free.
Now, and you mentioned this is like the first, this is a very unique technology, right?
I wouldn't call it unique. It's just new.
Yeah.
So a lot of new tracks that are being engineered from this point on, probably aftermarket, probably not factory stuff, because factory, probably won't want to spend the money, but a lot of new tracks are going to have this technology. And so you basically have to ask for it to get it.
Got it. Yeah. Anything else you want to cover on the track design or?
Oh, some guys might wonder what the funny looking surfaces. So we call those fish scales. We got that from trail snowmobiles. It's supposed to be a traction. They're a directional fish scale. So it's like kind of like a siped tire. I don't know that it does anything. It just looks really nice. The pattern's really nice and even. So we think it's a good look. So whether it provides a performance advantage, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. No, that was awesome. That was a good one. Here, let's put this one up because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering how many kits are going to be available, or maybe if we're not going to get into that, but when will they be available as well?
Yeah. So we're building enough kits what we feel will somewhat meet the demand for this year. Obviously, when you choose how many kits you're going to build, we have to choose way in advance. So just to give you an example, our 2025 Snowbike kits, we've already determined how many of those we're going to be able to make. So if you're wanting to know how long this process takes, I've been lucky to fast track this to this point, but moving forward at bigger quantities, it's not so easy. So you're talking 2-year lead time on some of the components, like in the shock absorbers and bearings and other items like that. So lead time's really long. But at this point, we personally don't have any kits to sell. All of our kits at this point are owned by the dealers. The dealers have the inventory. And so we will be delivering these kits starting in about 2 weeks through the month of October. That's on the first run, and we have a second run, and those kits will be starting to deliver in early December. So there are kits available. You have to contact one of the dealers on the page, whatever one you think is your favorite, and that's how you go about buying one of these.
Yeah, and like you said, there's only so many each dealers are getting. So I have a nagging suspicion they're going to be snatched up pretty quick, guys. So
they're gonna get snatched up quick, but bear with us. It is our first season. Our numbers are going to grow a lot, and so we want this to be a mainstream product, and it needs to be available. So, but yeah, first season's always the hard season, but you gotta start somewhere. So there's probably more being built than you probably think.
I can only imagine it. And guys, if you don't get a chance to buy one, or you want to wait or whatever, and you want to try one out, that's what we'll be doing up here in Montana, Snowbike Nation, just out, right up here in the mountains of Kalispell. And we'll be doing a demo day, probably more than one with Penco. And then, we'll be doing tours and taking guys out. So you'll be able to try it out if you want to try it out. So the next question, Alan, Greg's asking about, is this going to be a one kit that'll do everything? I know you and I talked about this. So what's your take on that?
So absolutely, that's the intention. One kit does it all. It can be, a full-fledged cross-country mountain kit, or it can be a rowdy, out-of-control kit. And that's really the only adjustment that takes at that is the air pressure adjustment in that rear track shock. So 80 PSI is your average setting in that guy, and you take it down to, say, 60 PSI. I mean, it goes from nicely floating the front end over everything with control to getting out of control over everything.
I know one of the things you and I talked about was, and specifically for me, I'm looking at, I've got a lot of different clients from tall to short. So being able to adjust it on the fly is critical. And that's one of the things that I thought was really cool, is being able to just adjust the suspension and not losing anything, but being able to drop it down. And also with the shock in the middle there, which essentially replaces a TSS. So do you want to kind of get into some of that, the live strut suspension?
So we can kind of hit on suspension in general and setup, I guess. So yeah, that shock in the picture is what we call live strut shock. So the strut rod from the motorcycle pushes on the linkage, which then activates the shock. So say a half inch of movement in the strut rod is 2 inches of stroke in that shock. So that gives you your swing arm suspension point. That's a tuned thing, so it's calibrated with the back suspension. It's not like some gushy soft suspension like a motorcycle suspension. It's not really a soft strut. It is a suspension point, and so you can tune that to be really, really stiff or really, really soft. And the softer it is, the more rowdy it's going to get. But you can also tune it for lighter riders or heavier riders, and that's kind of the point with that. The rear suspension, same thing. You have float shocks, right? So you got float in the frame. If you're riding a KTM, you got air forks, and now you got the suspension in the rear. Love them or hate them, they're a reliable shock. People can do things to make them not reliable.
Yeah, I know some people. I saw some people posting about, why is it not? Why did you not go with the coil versus, the air?
Well, if you go buy a Chevy Tahoe XL edition, it's going to come with coils. And if you go buy the whatever their top model, their High Country edition, it's going to have air shocks in the back of it. So tunability is why there's air shocks. So being able to make it playful, rowdy, athletic, whatever you want to call it, or you want to make it a pure mountain machine. You're a big guy, you're a small lady, you can tune the suspension to accommodate who's on it. And you can also kind of use it as a tuning tool for ride height too. So let's say you're a 130, 40 pound lady or guy, you can air the suspension down to not only make it soft, but it's also going to sag more, right? So it does have what we call negative springs inside the shocks. And so the negative springs work against the air spring. So as you let the pressure out, at some point it starts to suck itself down because those negative springs overcome the preload. So that is the beauty of the float shock, is its tunability for so many different things. These are internal bypass shocks. This is the highest end shock absorber money can buy. You only get these shocks on pro models of Timbersleds. That's why there's such a drastic difference between their premiums and their pros. Internal bypass is in the picture. You can see the little spiral fluting, but all those flutes have different lengths and depths to them. And basically what they do is they provide you progressive rate dampening. So at the top of the stroke, when this thing's raised up all the way, it's really soft. And when you get down to the bottom of the stroke, the flutes, they start to end, and it ramps up the compression rate. So you get a really strong dampening suspension to handle big bumps and jumps, but also at the same time gives you a premium ride quality. Well, so obviously guys have got to get their hands on these things. They've got to learn them for themselves, but yeah, you can tune this thing. So the seat height on this kit is 37 inches. So that's about 1.5 inches lower than the standard height other brands. And it's a little bit higher than low kits. So 37 inches, the factory seat height with the stock seat. And
yeah, so
air pressure, it can get lower than that just by letting the air pressure down.
Yeah, do you know what the stock, somebody asked it, is there going to be an S-kit equivalent? So do you know what the stock height is on the S-kit?
Well, it's skewed because I've had them in here and I've measured them anywhere from 37 inch all the way down to 35.5 inch. So I'm not really sure how consistent they are, but I think they're in the 36 inch range is kind of what they're advertising. But I get them in here and maybe it's just the bike I have just doesn't measure that low. So yeah, it's a little skewed, but yeah, they're definitely another 1.5 inches lower than that.
Okay. I think it'd be worth talking about the adjustable live strut and this whole setup here, because this is very unique what you have going on here.
Yep. So what's the point of all this? Well, for one, we get better tunability with this. So the strut rod itself, has a right and left-hand thread, so they're really easy to get at. You can tune the bike a little bit with that. I don't really recommend it, but you can shorten it to remove more ski pressure and return lowers the bike a little bit. So I think a lot of dealers and customers are going to come up with their own tune on the strut rod. So you can adjust the length of it pretty easily. Like, you don't have to take anything apart. You just get 2 wrenches and dial it up or down. The shock, because it runs through the linkage, you actually have more tunability in the shock, in the sense that the air pressure is more sensitive. So this shock, average 200-pound rider is going to run 150 PSI on that shock. A lightweight rider is going to probably drop it down to like 120 PSI. You can go a lot lower than that. It won't bottom out. And a big heavy guy is going to probably want to run 180, 200. And much past that, I mean, you take a 200-pound guy, put 200 PSI in it, and it's probably going to barely move. So the guy that wants a solid strut or a really stiff type strut feel, you can put more pressure in it. Now you can air this thing up to 300 PSI. So you can see there's pretty endless amounts of adjustment of what you can tune it to do.
So again, tunability. And it's fully integrated, so it's not like you're having to buy a separate, the TSS and slap it on there.
Yeah, there are no options like that on this. It's just premium model only. You can't take that shock out of there.
Yep.
It's not an option. And so another cool thing about all this frame and shock is that all that fits in with the stock airbox, if you so desire, and it all cycles and works with the stock airbox. There's no need to modify the bike to run this.
And I think for a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I think it's the pods, the air pods and whatnot are awesome, but I ran for a whole season just because I wanted to see what happened, a stock airbox with a cover and everything, and I never had issues. I mean, I think there was 1 or 2 times I got a little snow in there and I cleared it out. It was no big deal. So,
well, there's plenty of conditions where I live where they get plugged up. But what we do is, so we run Air Force velocity intakes.
Yeah,
we seem to like that one the best. We leave the back half of the airbox in the bike, and on KTMs, because that's what we're riding mostly, you can unbolt the front half and just remove it from the bike. You don't have to cut or modify anything. So the whole back half's in there. It's stopping all the blowing snow into the back of the air filter. And we have 0 issues. And I'm talking blower snow beginning of the season, that kind that just plugs up everything. And the bikes work really, really good.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, you don't have to modify it. I think these are all the little things too that you thought of, obviously, that a lot of, others have.
What we don't want to have to do is have the customer modify his whole dang motorcycle to put a kit on it.
Right.
Having to remove the airbox and to make the suspension work or something. So
Right.
that was on my bucket list of things, and is why the frame is built the way it is. It's very slender where it fits underneath the airbox, and because it's steel, it's extremely rigid and strong. It's not all flexy and weird. So it stays really strong and rigid, but it's still streamlined to be able to fit. So you go with bigger aluminum, and now you have to have bigger plates that get in the way of the airbox, and it just takes up more real estate back there.
Got it. I know you and I talked about this, and you said this is going to be one of the things that'll kind of blow people away in terms of how it handles the trails and the whoops and stuff. So you want to talk through that and talk about why it handles it so well. And I think that can kind of segue into the ski as well.
Okay. So suspension wise and what you can do with it, it's pretty limitless. You can go through the moguls 2 feet tall in 4th gear, and you have control. You can actually steer through them going that fast. It's unreal. Again, the bypass shocks aid in that. Air or coil is going to ride like that. We have a pretty high drive axle. It's something that we don't mention on the website. And so getting the drive axle to clear bumps is super important. So if you bottom the suspension out, the drive axle will not touch the ground. It's off the ground. So as you go over bumps, you can't have your drive axle just drilling the top of the bump, because there's no suspension's gonna, dampen that. I mean, I guess if any suspension did, it would be this this live strut shock.
Right.
But the idea is that you need the bump to clear the drive wheel. And so our drive axle, if you measure from the floor to the bottom of the skid plate and from the floor to the center of the drive axle, most kits, that drive axle is going to be lower than your skid plate. I mean, go out in your shop and measure your bike as it sits on the ground. It's probably going to be an inch plus lower to the center of that drive axle than to the bottom of your skid plate. On this, it's about a half inch above. So
to your point, having more clearance.
Yeah, more clearance to the bump. Yep. And the way we are able to do that is how much arc we have in the frame to be able to create the track clearance above the top of the track. So we have a lot of arc in our frame. So if you look at the frame and how it's shaped, you'll see it.
Yeah, what does that translate to, Alan?
Well, it translates to your drive axle not just boring into the snow every time your front end comes down. So it drives on top of the snow better. So whether you're deep snow riding, it's always above the snow versus just driving through the snow. So we get an efficiency gain from that. This is top secret stuff. I mean, all we're doing is telling everybody how to build a snowbike anymore. And that's why it's not mentioned on the website, but I'm not afraid to talk about it. But the whole idea is to get the driver to clear the snow so that when you cavitate, it isn't trying to drive the snow above the top of your track. When it does that, those paddles above your track are going backwards. They're not going forward. That's why a snowbike sticks so hard in the snow when you bounce the front end. It's not like a snowmobile where it just planes out on the, bounces off of a skid plate. It doesn't have that option.
Yeah, never thought about that.
The higher you get that axle in relation to the bottom of that skid plate, the more free the thing drives over the snow, and also the more free it can drive through the bumps, or jump landings.
Got it. And you want to segue into the other reason why it handles the trail so well in this ski, because I mean the ski in of itself, and I saw a couple of questions about ski, like this is a game changer. This is way different than any other ski out there.
So this is a game changer, but it's nothing new. We got a little piece on our website there, last slide of that ski section, that'll tell you the kind of the history behind this thing. It's a tri-keel ski design, no different than a Timbersled or Yeti ski. We've tweaked all the specs and measurements to make it what it is. It's 11 and a quarter inches wide on the outside of the ski, but the inside of the ski between the keels is actually wider than, say, a Timbersled 11 and a half inch wide ski. So as far as how it holds itself up, depending on where you put your tape measure, will tell you, how narrow or wider it is than somebody else's ski. But we figured 11 and a half or 11 and a quarter was the happy measurement for this. And then we have a semi-parabolic design. There's a slide in there that shows that. I don't know which slide it is. That one. So it's flat in the middle of the ski and rounded on the outside of the ski. So the reason we do that is that it lessens how deep the keel hangs down, the outside keel. And that aids in how it steers, how easy it steers. So I guess if you were going to compare this to something, this ski is it's probably 10 or 15% more aggressive than a Timbersled ski off trail as far as how much bite it has. And on trail, it rides like nothing you've ever driven before. And that's all due to the live keel, the center keel being live. That the whole purpose of that is that it mimics what a tire does. It flexes and contours itself to the ground it's on. And so to keep a snowbike ski from darting, it has to have two edges in the snow all the time. So the second you lean that ski far enough to where you're on the outside edge of it, it's gonna dart. So we offset that with our ski skags. So if you look at the ski skag, it's a multi-height ski skag. And so all of it's kind of a tuning point.
And these are you're going to have different heights, right? Different ones available.
Yeah. So we have a higher and a lower, and this is it comes with the middle size. So we have a more aggressive and a less aggressive. More aggressive would be for deep snow, less aggressive would be for hard packed snow, but all around it's really good with just what it comes with. So I don't think it's something that everybody's just going to be changing.
Yeah.
And so the result of it is it's very connected. When you go down the trail, you don't ever feel like that ski's out of control. It doesn't dart, it doesn't shift. When you go around a corner, you don't steer it, you just lean it. It has self-steer built into it like a skateboard truck does. You lean a skateboard as you're coasting, it's going to turn. This is the same thing.
And that's partly because of these rubber dampeners that you have in here.
Yep. That and the height of the multi-height outer keels. So it's a combination of things. But whether you put this on another brand or on our kit, you go down the trail, you don't ever turn the handlebars. You just lean the bike. And because of that, it doesn't ever get darting on you because you're not trying to hold the handlebar in a corner. You know how hard that is to do. So very good trail mannerism. Now, the other thing you're going to be able to do, and you can drive down a ice road pretty comfortably. We cruise down our ice road out by our cabin all the time. It's a plowed road that's slicker than snot. The track won't even push the bike down the road because it's so slick, but the ski's 100%. And you can go in fifth gear down that road safely. So that's kind of the difference.
I'll be curious to see racers and what happens there with people putting this on their race kits.
Yeah, well, this is not a race ski because of how wide it is. Even though that's how wide a ski, we got another ski coming too. So we hope to have it out next year. But it's going to be a 9 1/4 inch ski, same design and 9 1/4. So you'd be amazed at how much less energy it takes to push a 9 1/4 inch ski versus an 11 1/4 inch ski. It's like freeing up 5 horsepower.
like in powder or on the trail?
Like the trail mostly anytime you're going straight and the ski's in the snow, it's a lot of energy to push a big ski. There's a lot of surface and friction there that you don't realize is even there.
But you're not saying going with a shorter, narrower ski in like powder, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I mean. I mean, racing, less than perfect snows. I mean, if you're going to be on top, you got to have it all. So this is where we know we have to be. I don't think going wider is the good option. We need a narrower option because there's some cases where you throw the old Timbersled Simmons ski on there and it feels amazing because it's narrower. It's only 10 inches wide.
I don't know in what conditions that's a thing because I've hated that ski on every single kit I've ever ridden, so I must not have ridden the right kit.
You got a few more things to learn. We have, but we also know how to modify them and make them work. So this ski side hilling, I mean it's a lot like a Timbersled ski. You just hold on with one hand and it'll go across a crusty surface holding on with one hand. It doesn't pull you or I'm very cautious of that kind of stuff. I do not want that sucker to self-steer on me at all. And I like just a very comfortable feel. And you couple all that with how light the steering is, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's very easy to ride.
And talking about this ski here and the center skag, if you guys look at this design here, you'll see this plastic like runner. And then what picture is it? Right here, this is the middle piece. So this is so it doesn't catch, right, Alan, when it's hitting trees and.
Well, it doesn't have metal up the front of the keel, so it's always hitting on plastic. So you hit a log or even a rock, it's going to hit the plastic before it hits the metal. So it's less grabby. So the plastic takes the brunt, the impact. And then, of course, that's replaceable. So if you, at the end of the year, when it's all beat up, you can put a new skag and a new runner on and have a fresh ski.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, that's going to be huge for, I know, me and other operators. You want to go segue into the spindle now? I've seen some questions on the spindle, and they're just wondering about the design. And first of all, like, does it have any of the issues that some of the other ones have had with crunching and folding? And I know we talked about that. So,
dude, let's get one thing straight. You hit something hard, something's going to give. So if you hit a bendy tree, the tree's going to bend. You're probably not going to bend your stuff. You hit a rock, a stump, a Forest Service gate, they ain't moving. And something has to move. Something. So you're going to break something, and I don't know what it is. And I'll be honest with you, I have not bent a spindle yet. We've hit lots of little things, but those little things have all obviously given, and we've gone over them. But I'm going to need somebody to hit a Forest Service gate to know exactly where that spindle bends. But as you can see, we've got a unibody design spindle. It's a welded spindle. It's not a billet spindle. Got a lot of billet parts in it, but it's not a billet spindle. And in theory, it should bend without just destroying your front end, but that works sometimes and sometimes not. So guys get mad about bending their front ends when they hit stuff, but I don't know what you expect. So It's probably not a very good answer, but it's a well-designed spindle. It's got a different fork clamp mounting system that mounts from the backside of the fork there. And so it's not a side-mounted fork. So when you do hit something, it's not going to try to twist the fork clamps. The billet spindles are really good that way because nothing can move. But the Timbersled spindles, they do twist the fork clamps, and that is what can damage the lower fork tube. But sometimes they bend and don't hurt nothing. So I guess it's a trade-off. But the rear half of that fork clamp is plastic. So when you hit the ski, the load goes into the back side of the fork tubes. So on the back, and that back half of that fork clamp is UHMW plastic, and it in theory absorbs the hit. So I'm sure at some point somebody's going to wad the whole damn thing up and there's going to be nothing but noodles hanging out everywhere. But I don't know until
I'll have a lot of varying people writing these, so might be somebody.
Oh, there'll be somebody, yeah. And the first guy that bends one's probably going to get a new free setup because
perfect.
We'd like to really see what happens.
All right, you guys heard it from Alan. So what happens?
No sign-up sheet for that. Just get a hold of old Alan.
Yeah, we'll see who gets it first. So explain the no fit kit needed for the fork.
Yeah, so because the fork clamp mounts on from the back side, you can see that we now have a bunch of adjustments that we can accommodate. So we can accommodate how wide the forks are, the height and offset between the axle and where the fork clamp has to sit, the axle clamp there where the tire axle bolt is holding it on. That's a clamping system versus a slip through. So once all that's tight, it's all fixed. Nothing rotates or moves. So we feel like we pick up some strength with that, and it also adapts different diameter axles, and it also adapts different offsets of forks, the offset between the fork tube and the axle bolt. So it all mounts on there, positions itself exactly where it needs to be, without needing to have different fork clamps and different spacers and reducers or different billet aluminum parts to accommodate the bike. And so, yeah, it fits on there, and there's a proprietary shape that we have on the inside of the fork clamps. The plastic one is flexible and accommodates 3 different diameter fork tubes because of its flex. It's round, so it fits on there, and it just kind of like suction cups itself on there. And then the front clamp has a proprietary shape that's relieved so that it can also fit the 3 different diameter, so 47, 48, 49 millimeter fork tubes. And so all of those reliefs and key things in the fork clamps themselves, you'll see when you get one, what it actually does. But it also allows the snow and ice to go through the bottom of the fork clamp, so it's not getting trapped inside where your fork seals go. And so the fork guards too, the aluminum fork guards they're also relieved. So everything is designed to let snow through the bottom. It doesn't just start hydraulicking snow into your fork guards. And that's a lot of why fork guards break, is because the hydraulicking snow just jacks them right off the bike.
You said it first, that jacks them right off the bike there. When Alan, when I saw this design, and you're talking about the hydraulic, release and coming out the side, I mean, that's just something that I guess, the mere snow bikers don't think of. But like I said, I haven't been able to keep a left front fork guard on at all, ever. And so now you don't have to worry about fork guards. You slap it on, and talk about the strength of these, because you said you haven't bent them, right?
Yeah, so that we made them out of aluminum. So I guess they're equivalent to an aluminum radiator guard. But they're strong enough to hold the weight of the bike tipping into a tree without bending them. I mean, you might wipe the sticker clean off the thing before it bends the fork guards. And then the way those bolt on, they bolt to our front of our fork clamp. They don't bolt to the motorcycle. So that's why they're also universal. They don't utilize the factory bolt holes for factory fork guards. They got their own bolts.
Hooked right on there. That's such a little touch that is awesome, because I hate dealing with those stupid things, and you always got to cut them or get them to fit. And they never stay on. Well,
problem's over. You don't need socks on your forks, those neoprene socks. You don't need any of it. Just this. We haven't had any fork skill problems. I mean, like zero.
Anything more you want to cover with your spindle and skid in your ski?
Well, I guess one thing that's kind of unique is the stickers that are on those fork guards. So our sticker kit comes with the kit, but when you buy a kit from the dealer, you have the choice to put whatever color stickers you want on the kit. So your graphic can match your motorcycle. So as that, you can see the orange ones on those.
Got it.
Mounting of the ski. I guess maybe you guys are going to want to know if they can adapt the ski. So we call this the mounting of the ski. I think I'm calling it this, the industry standard 3-inch wide Polaris mounting system. So all the skis in the industry use this same spec mount. So basically a Polaris ski mount. And so this ski will bolt onto any snow bike. So you can buy this ski from your dealer aftermarket and bolt it on your bike and get all the benefits of the ski onto any snow bike kit.
And I know everybody's wondering, are they going to be able to purchase that this year?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're making about double the amount of skis as we're making kits. So we'll have a pretty big inventory of skis.
Okay. And you guys heard that. You don't have to even get a different spindle. You can bolt it right on.
Yeah.
That's huge.
We'll be offering spindles at some point. We will have 3 options in spindles, so 3 different height spindles. So the kit comes with the middle height. So we'll make one that's an inch lower and an inch taller. And so I guess you'd use all those options if you needed to replace a spindle on another snow bike, or you wanted to put a lower one on this kit to lower the front end down. We'll offer those as accessories, but it'll be a little bit before we can do that because of just inventory supply chain issues.
Yeah.
So, we'll have a full line of accessories, but those accessories are not going to go on our website until we have them available. So obviously there's no accessory page on the website at this point, but we will have a full line of accessories, and it'll include things like skis and spindles and shocks and every version of a bag you can put on a snow bike, wheels, towing kits, a lot of just knick-knack things that we feel are necessary. And everything that we sell is engineered by us, made by somebody in the industry. A lot of companies you've heard of, or maybe you've owned parts from them before. So partnering with them to build our own design stuff, accessories.
Yeah, I saw some guys asking about gas cans and all that. And if you guys look at the way, you want to go ahead and just talk about the tunnel real quick. And I mean, you can mount obviously a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, so a traditional tunnel top with lots of room on it. But we're not going to sell gas cans. Is what we're offering. Is going to be offering is a gas can mounting system that meets our 100% standard, meaning it has no weak point. So it'll be universal and it can be adapted to any can, from an LC can, a Mountain Addiction can, a Tough Jug, any of those cans. This mounting system will work. So essentially what it is 3 independent brackets that keep the can aligned on the tunnel, a rubber pad, and a really neat strap system that will get so tight that you could literally smash the jug right through the top of the tunnel. It's so strong, meaning you could almost lift the bike up by the gas can because of this way the strap is built. So you'll see those when we have them available, but they're not some crazy expensive thing. It's just a universal mounting solution that meets our 100%, satisfaction of performance.
Hell yeah. Wouldn't expect anything less. Tunnel top and bumper.
Yeah, so the bumper is very functional. It is a billet aluminum bumper. It's not a cheap bumper, but it has function built into it. So it sticks up and out at a 45-degree angle. So that aids in keeping the tunnel as short as possible, but the bumper still is back where you can easily grab it and reach it. And so it's positioned very well so that when you do lift or pull by it, you can balance the bike really well by the bumper. You're not being forced to grab it by the side of the tunnel. You can also lift the kit up. You can tow by it. We don't tow by it. We don't like how it tows from the back bumper, but it's strong enough to do all those things. And it aids in trimming out the back of the tunnel. So we have that part that says mountaintop on it. That's an independent bracket that absorbs vibration and trims out the back of the tunnel, giving it that kind of that rear spoiler look that we're after. So between that and the bumper gives it that look.
Yeah, and it's funny because not funny, but it's awesome to see in person just because of just this alone, it's like super beefy and it feels really good in your hand. And as any snowbiker knows, trying to freaking lift your bike up and up out of a 3 or 4 foot, trench, you need a good hand grip.
Yeah, and it's got to be clear of snow all the time too, and you can't pinch your hands into corners. So whether you have one guy or 2 guys lifting on it, or you're just pulling it backwards, it's super friendly. Like, it does not hurt your hand in any way. Any way you grab it or pull on it, it does not hurt your hand.
Yep. Another question. This is a really good question, but he's talking about chain maintenance on the mountain, in terms of just adjusting it, etc. How easy, how hard is that?
Well, it's easy because I never adjust my chain on the mountain. But let's just say you did. So we kind of already answered that. You need a 13 millimeter wrench and a 17 millimeter to adjust the chains. I have personally never had to adjust the chain on the mountain. I do my maintenance before I go. It's like anything else. You can lube it or not lube it as many times as you want. We like to run chain wax because the waxy surface, creates a film over the chain, but we ride them. We go on, we go up to Flathead and ride, and we'll ride for a whole week and never even touch the chain, not lube it, not nothing. So the chain, because the chain does run in the snow though, it runs really cool. And so the chain life is way longer when it runs cool than when it runs hot inside of a cover or hotter.
Do you recommend lubing it up much, or what's kind of the standard for you?
I'm a chain maintenance guy. I personally think it's your life link. I have never in history broke a chain in the backcountry in all my years of snowbiking. Wow. I've ridden thousands of miles. I've done thousands of validation miles, multiple kinds of machines. I've never had a chain fail.
How about you, Rush? Has Rush? Is he back there? Has he broken a chain?
I don't know where he went. He might have taken off.
He'll probably answer on here. I saw him answering some questions. While we're on this, let's talk about this jack shaft hub, because this thing is freaking very unique.
Okay. So the hub is where the chain adjustment comes from. So that hub can adjust up and down for the drive chain. So up and down vertically, and it can go horizontally, straight front to back for the engine chain adjustment. So I think we talked about that several times, but that's what it looks like. So those plates that you see, the aluminum plates on the end, will slide in slotted holes on the frame and in the tunnel. And then the big bolt on the end is what is a slotted hole and can go up and down in the slotted hole. So it has 5/8 of an inch of movement, so an entire set of links worth of adjustment. So you don't ever run out of adjustment. And if you did, you would just take 2 links out of the chain.
And talk about, and guys, when Alan and I did the interview the other day, we went into this in detail, but this piece right here, this is super unique. And this has a lot to do with the rotational mass, right, Alan? You've got
so everything in the drive system is designed to be lightweight but strong. And so the way we make it lightweight is, we say simplistic design, but this particular part, that black section, that thing's 2 halves. It looks like a 2-stroke engine case. The bearings are inside of it, and you close it together and you put the bolts in it, and that's what holds the bearings in. And then the sprockets are bolted to the outside of that. So for one, our sprockets, we call them ring gear sprockets. So they're just thin pieces of metal. So if you go to I think the last slide, you can see what the sprockets actually look like. They're just ring gears. They're not big pieces of metal. So we reduce the weight of the sprocket by, how big the inside is machined out, because it doesn't go all the way down and have a spline that fits on a shaft. So those sprockets are bolted on, so they fit over a concentric, just like a wheel does on a modern car. And then the bolts hold them on. So that hub, go back to that hub picture. That hub, the only part spinning is the outside of the bearing and the outside of the hub and the ring gear sprocket. So rotating weight-wise, this is extremely lightweight. It's pounds. I don't know how many pounds. It's a pound lighter. I don't know.
So
it's like,
yeah, guys, I don't like what Alan's saying right here. Not to interrupt you, because you're way smarter than I am. But this is the only thing moving, guys. This thing is fixed, so it's not some giant shaft moving.
Yeah, the shaft doesn't rotate. Just the outside of the hub does. So all those spacers and stuff that fit on that assembly, they don't turn. Just the outside of the hub and just the sprocket. Yeah,
that thing's going to spool up very fast.
Yeah, it's just less rotating inertia. So it all aids in its efficiency.
Yeah.
Gear wise, there's a bunch of gearing options. When I change the gearing, I tend to change the lower drive gear over changing the jack shaft gear.
Why is that?
I like how easy it is to get to, and it works to my advantage in the chain adjustment.
Got it.
So some sprockets make the chain tighter and some make them looser. I tend to like to make them tighter, so I have to go down in my adjustment versus up.
Got it. Copy. Well, and I don't want to keep you all night too. I know I could talk about snow bikes for probably, hours on end. There's like a couple other quick questions. I think this one's the most important though, right here, that Rush asked. What your favorite beer is?
My beer.
What your favorite temperature is?
Well, let me ask you this, Kyle. Have you been to the Tall Pine in Big Fork, Montana?
No, but I know where it is. Yeah.
Well, you can't even believe you haven't been there. I thought you can.
I don't drink, so I'm like,
You have to go to the Tall Pine in Big Fork, Montana, to know what temperature I like my beer. And those guys got it right dialed into the exact degree.
Nice and cold.
It's why everybody goes back. They pour it, and there's just the right amount of ice floating in your beer.
Ice in your beer, isn't that? That's like, I thought
no,
that was
not ice. It's a calibration thing.
Oh,
like
okay.
Like an efficient drive system.
I got you. All right, Tall Pine. I'll have to go there. I'll go with some buddies that drink, and I'll just get a burger.
It's literally worth driving across the country just to go to the Tall Pine. You get to go snowbiking.
All right, so
great, but go to Tall Pine.
yeah, come there and say, well, when you guys come snowbiking up here with us, we'll go to the Tall Pine then. We'll get some huckleberry.
Rush and I are there every night when we're there riding, but yeah, it's a good place.
You talked about wheel kits. Yeah, you guys are gonna do wheel kits. What about replacement parts? What's that gonna look like?
So all this is work in progress. So like I said, we'll have the accessories up soon. They'll go on as we have them available for sale. Parts. Right now you just get a hold of a dealer for a part. We'll eventually have part groups and itemized out parts available to on our website to purchase. We'll eventually have microfiche searchability, but again, it's just all work in progress. So we'll have parts available. The most commonly purchased parts are going to probably be ski replacement parts because they get beat up the quickest. High-fax, Polaris high-fax, any Polaris RMK high-fax will work. A lot of the specialty items you'll need to get through us. Bearings, they're all just industry standard 6205 bearings.
This is the one I seem to somehow break. I don't know how it happens.
The panel?
I somehow just hit shit and then it's,
Oh, well, you can certainly bend these, but the lifted drive axle and all that certainly aids in how well it clears things and how hard you hit things because it's not
unless you hit sideways. Unless you hit sideways a rock, then it doesn't do so well. We
did crash the kit once. Hit a rock so hard we bent the side panel. We hit it so hard we dang accordion bended that thing all the way to the back. Drove that sucker out, bent, chains rubbing on the tunnel, ground a slot right in the tunnel because they were hitting so hard. It was really messed up. Drove that thing out 20 miles. It side loaded the bearings so hard that the grease in the bearings all boiled out of the grease. It smelled like an old 390 Ford. I needed to get it going, so it was too bent to bend it out with a hammer and keep using it. So we drove to town. I got a new panel because I had one. The bearings, I just pulled the seal out and greased the bearings. It didn't, believe it or not, didn't wound the bearing, even though they got so hot. And those bearings are still on that kit today driving.
Dude,
they are dual bearings, right? So they're super tough. They're not like a single bearing that goes bad on you in a year. These bearings are going to last years.
I'll have to take a picture and post it, and you'll appreciate this, Alan, because I crashed my 16 Mountain Horse, and these side panels remind me a little bit of them. And I drove out about 15 miles. I didn't even know they were bent. We get home and we're looking at it, and Matt is looking. He goes, "Dude, what's wrong with your kit?" And I'm looking, and the whole thing was just turned, all the way to the right, drive shaft, everything bent. And all I did was replace one side panel, put it back together, and I rode it another year and a half, and it was fine. So
this one got bent so bad that the bearing housing, or the triangle shape of the bearing housing was bent. You could see the pattern of it from the back side of the panel when you took it apart. Like it bent, it hit it that hard. It was a rock, but it sounds it's pretty durable.
Last question here. Does it have Zerk fittings? Assuming it needs grease.
Okay, well, the bearings don't. You don't have to grease those. They have these are, so I think you might be talking about the suspension also. So I'll just tell you what grease zerks we do have. So no grease zerks on the drive components. We use MTN snowmobile bearings, which have a special seal and groove that they ride in on the bearing, and the grease that's used in those bearings are a special grease, and they have a 90% grease fill. So there is no room for water. If you were to put grease in them, you would just ruin the bearing by doing so. The idea is that water never gets into the bearing, and the way it doesn't get in there is by having a strong system that's not side loading the bearing all the time, where the seals and bearings are failing because of the side loading. So properly engineered parts don't have problems. So that's the case with the drive bearings. The suspension does have grease zerks in it. So the suspension's a little different than any other suspension I've built. All the shafts run metal on metal. There are some bushings in the suspension, but this is exactly how the snowmobiles are built. They run metal on metal. So they run a steel smooth bore tube, and then the shaft is hard anodized aluminum, and then there's a grease zerk. So you pump it full of grease, and the hard anodized. Yeah, well, I don't know. You grease it a couple times a year or whatever, but yeah, it's just a really strong way of building suspension parts because there's no air gap between the shaft and the inside of the tube. So the whole thing can flex and move without getting permanently bent. Not that anything really has that issue. Everybody's kind of got it figured out, but this is the design of it. And with that, you can run a little bit smaller tubing, which is a little bit lighter weight parts. So you will not bend a suspension part on this.
I'm surprised nobody asked this question, but the narrow rails in the track. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Nobody asked this question. So talk about this.
Well, so narrow rails are obviously the new standard for snow bikes, and they may end up being the standard for snowmobile someday. I don't know, but they're 5.5 inches, or in our case, 5 3/8 inches between the rail. Everybody else is 5.5 inches. The reason we've narrowed it up is because we wanted our high facts to be tighter to the clip so that the track doesn't walk as much. So that's why we're 5 3/8 versus 5.5. Standard snowmobile stuff, or older snow bikes, are going to be 8 5/8 inches between the rails. So it's quite a bit narrower. You just get an overall better feel and handling out of the bike. There's just no two ways about it. It just works better. The bike feels more nimble. And what I mean by that is when you ride and you lean the bike side to side, it leans very quickly. It feels like a tire. Where a wide rail feels, you don't really realize it when you're riding them until you get on a narrow rail, but it has a dampened feel, leaning side to side, a lot slower and heavier feeling. So this aids in how light the whole bike feels. I think
that was one of the biggest things. I've been riding the Yeti now for 2 seasons, and that freaking narrow rail system, it's just a game changer. It feels so amazing when you're side hilling and turning.
Yeah, it has just an overall improvement to slip versus stick feel. So I know Rush was pretty skeptical on this until it was proven to him, but he was concerned that it would wash on a side hill, and it doesn't wash. I don't care how steep or how slick the snow is. It honestly, I think, works better because we've gone across some pretty nasty hillsides where you feel like you need to hang your leg out for balance because it's so hard or slick. I've never really do that. I just keep my toe on the foot peg and go across the side hill, and even though it's really slick, you'll let off the gas and it'll start to slide, but as soon as you're back on the throttle just a little bit, it just straightens right out. So the slip versus stick is just more controlling, whether you're on the trail or on a side hill. There really is zero disadvantage to narrow rails, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't. Riding it for 2 seasons, I never saw a disadvantage. It only felt great.
Yeah, and it looks cool, and your track is a lot sturdier because a lot of guys rip windows out on wide rail tracks. Now you have a big, thick side that is protected. You're not going to rip out your $900 track.
Yep. Yeah, I have yet to ever rip a Yeti track, but I've ripped 2 Timbersled tracks so far.
Sure.
Yep. Well, dude, I think that about wraps it up. I know we could probably keep going on. One other question that somebody had that I thought was a good one here is just what's the overall suspension travel?
Well, I don't really measure suspension travel, but I don't even know where you measure it at. Do you measure it at the back bumper? Do you measure it at the suspension arm? It has pretty much exactly the same as any snowmobile or snow bike suspension. but I haven't measured the inches. The tunnel will go all the way down to where the track, well, that's another thing, I guess. It brings up a point. This track doesn't rub the top of the tunnel.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers, I don't know on Yeti, Timbersled, and a lot of them bottom the skid in the tunnel. Some of the snowmobiles do the same thing. And it's a good way to bottom the suspension, depending on if you tail land it or what. It's kind of a protective device to the suspension. But this doesn't rub the tunnel, so we don't get that inefficiency of the rubber rubbing the top of the tunnel. And so suspension wise, we like to stop the suspension before it does that. So yeah, and there's a lot of sag built into that suspension. So as you look at that picture, there's probably 2 inches of sag in that back of that tunnel.
Yeah. Talk about the running your track tighter than looser, because I know that was one of the things we touched on.
Yeah, that's a good point. So our suspension, when the suspension goes down, it doesn't tighten the track, it slightly loosens it. We're doing that because we don't have any ratcheting issues and don't need to keep the track super tight. But you don't want to run a loose track. Now, everybody's going to argue with me on this, but on a narrow rail system, you need to run a pretty snug track. And if you don't, the track pulls away from the high facts. So the only time you're going to notice that the track being loose is an advantage is when the track and high facts are dry and how easy it rolls in the shop. The second you lube that thing up with frozen snow, it's going to pull out of your trailer and coast all the way to the ground, right? There is no friction left. But we run a pretty snug track. We run 1 inch of sag. So if you put your finger down the track and you weight the track and you take your tape measure and measure, it's 1 inch from the bottom of the high facts to the top of the clip on the track. That's the tension that we want you to run.
Right back where you're talking about.
And loose tracks, they rub on everything. They rub on the top of the tunnel. They rub on the side of the tunnel. They're constantly pulling away from the high facts. You're getting an inefficiency. Now, there's a happy medium. I mean, some guys might think of a tight track and it's so freaking tight that you can see the bogey wheel out the backside of the track. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just running a snug track that doesn't have any free hang is the right tension for literally anything with a narrow rail design. And as our suspension goes down, it slightly gets looser. It doesn't track bind. That is something that we're very careful with in the design of the suspension, arm lengths, and the angles of the arms, which all dictate how much track tensioning it has.
Got it. Well, there you go. I mean, that was, I think, a pretty solid explanation of the track, the tightness. I know you mentioned your wheels, like you didn't have to put any of the rubber stoppers on here like the other kits.
Well, yeah. So the front arm bottoms on the rubber wheel. So the anti-stab wheel is rubber. It's not hard plastic. So we use the wheel as the bottoming bumper.
Yep. Which is
and the rear shock, it airlocks. So it doesn't need a bumper. It airlocks. If we ever go to coils or have a coil option, we'll then have to put a bump stop on the back on the rail.
Got it.
So you'll never feel the suspension bottom out, ever. You could run flat shocks and you probably still won't feel the suspension bottom out. You'll bend the rail from so much load in the rail before you'll feel the suspension bottom out.
Is that another? If somebody bends the rail, they get a free rail.
I don't know. Rails get bent. They're a lot less likely to get bent on this narrow rail setups because they're so well protected. But yeah, you can side load blast something and bend the rail. We've done it.
One thing
you have a shaft in there to help protect the rail. In the middle of that rail, you'll see that there's a extra cross shaft in there to help protect that.
One thing that you didn't touch on, Alan, just kind of looking at this, the approach angle versus everybody else out there, your attack angle there.
Oh yeah, you can get a big fight about this too. I'll just tell you what I know. When you drive this kit, you're pushed in 50% of your travel. The track angle's gone. When it sits there at full extension, yeah, it looks like it's got some track angle. This is more set up like a Skidoo. You look at a Skidoo side view of a Skidoo, this very much so mimics what we got going on here. We're trying to keep as much track on the ground on the bottom of the Hyfax as possible. So our kit also sits a little bit lower, so we can get away with making the flat section of the rail longer and making the track angle a little bit steeper. But the second you go in forward motion, that flattens right out. You know, obviously if you cavitate in the snow, it gets there, but you'll see when this thing, you punch the throttle, you won't think much about that. It's got traction at all times. So,
and that's the real test, right? Is like, what does it feel like? And so I think that's where we're all sitting here looking at it. Everybody's foaming at the mouth that's on this call. I can't believe that we had like 115 people on here, and there's still 90 people. So there's that many people that want to sit here and bullshit about friggin' snow bikes.
Heck, I thought we bored them all to death and they left, and we were going to have to shut this thing down so we can keep talking about snow bikes.
Yeah. I'm like, geez, everybody, time to crack a few beers, guys. It sounds like it keep going, but no, this is
the tall pine.
Yeah, I can get there pretty quick. So anything else, Alan, that you want to cover that we didn't cover that you want people to know about, or you know, just kind of that obviously there's a lot of technology here, a lot of things that went into this, but anything in particular that you'd like to get across?
I think we covered it. You got more questions? Like, I love the questions. That's my customer. I want to know what he's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we freaking pretty much somebody. If you ask what the track looked like, go look at it. There's the pictures on here, guys. Nah, man, we nailed like every good question on there. Somebody
questions. There are a lot. The website does a really good job of explaining all the different components of the kit.
Well,
so just know something about the suspension. Just go down to that slide that says skid or rear suspension.
And I like how this is like. There's no BS on this site. It's like real. You're saying real words here. There's no like, you know, speak that's outside of anybody understanding it. So you guys did a really good job with that. And so yeah, I think if people have questions, you didn't talk about the drive axle. I guess that's something you could talk about.
Not much to say about that other than it's built very lightweight. It's aluminum. We didn't talk about the brake system. But
we didn't talk about that.
You can see that it has dual bearings on each side, so that's a really strong setup. The sprockets are on the inside of the tunnel, so we pick up a lot of strength from that because you don't have a shaft sticking through a bearing, and then have to be like only as strong as that shaft that hangs through the bearing. The brake system, so you're gonna laugh at me, but that's a mountain bike brake. That's the best mountain bike brake money can buy. It's a Hayes Dominion 2 A2 brake system. Only the best of the best mountain bikes have these. It is a custom assembled brake system for us with the brake line and the fittings and stuff that go along with it. It's literally the most powerful brake you've ever felt on a snow bike. Is one finger lockup at any speed. Even with that tiny little disc that it has. And so the covered brake, you know, so it's not.
You got the best lever that I've seen yet come with the Snowbike kit.
Very slender lever system. It's a 1 or 2 finger. I mean, honestly, the brake talks to you, right? When you're riding a dirt bike, the brake talks to you. It tells you how many fingers you need to have on it for total control. For me, I got a big old mitt. It tells me 1 finger. I don't need any more than that. It doesn't strain me to lock the track up or feather the brake for maneuverability. The lever, crazy adjustable. You can adjust it all the way to the grip practically, and so far away from it, you can hardly grab it. So a lot of adjustment in that lever. So we do have some parts for the brake system, replacement parts, bleeding kits, all Hayes branded components.
Pretty standard mountain bike stuff, yeah.
This whole thing bolts together really easy too. There's no hard to get to bolts. It's not hard to work on. This is very common sense engineering.
Which would make sense.
Engineering,
yeah. Makes sense coming from you. Yeah, talk about the frame. You didn't cover that at all either. I know that's, just looking at it, it's very compact and simple.
Yeah, so it's a very triangulated frame, very rigid. The front mounts that you see there sticking off the front of the frame, that's where it bolts to the swing arm pivot point. Those mounts are adjustable from left to right. And so that's one of the major contributors to how simplistic the fitment of the kit is.
Yeah, right here, guys, you can loosen this bolt and that thing moves side to side.
Yeah, so we use that to adapt every frame of every motorcycle and every offset engine out there. So it's sized to accommodate them all. Now our fitment components, they come with the kit, so you don't have to buy them separately. But let's say you do need to buy one to adapt it to a different bike. Our fitment kits are only $50. So you buy the $50 fitment kit and it'll adapt to another brand of motorcycle.
Nice. That's a pretty easy pill to swallow.
Yeah, that's a fit kit right there.
That's the fit kit.
Yeah, less the rod end. Rod ends go with the kit. Oh. So it's the rod and the spacers and the reducers. That's it.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
So you're riding a TM 2-stroke or a KTM mainstream KTM 450. Those are the only components you need. And there's another thing I guess I'll say about fit kits. There's a lot of bikes we haven't mounted to yet. We've got all the common ones, but the only two measurements we need to build somebody a fit kit. So we have a universal fit kit, and it's basically parts that you trim down. And all we need is the width of a swing arm eyelet and the width of the shock, upper shock eyelet. With those two measurements, and it's nice to know the diameter of the bolt, whether it's a 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter bolt, but with those two measurements, we can build anybody a fit kit for a older 2-stroke or some bike we've never heard of or ever worked on. So that really simplifies the whole.
That's awesome. I bet we'll see I bet we'll see these on some pretty awesome bikes, including some old 500 2-strokes.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them out there, and we are just physically ain't able to go out there and mount to everything. So yeah, we get all the latest bikes, but the older ones we haven't mounted to. But some of them we have the specs to and can build a fit kit for them. But we have this one universal fit kit where the components are just oversized, and we can take those parts and we trim them down in the lathe and can provide you the right fit kit for a bike we've never worked on.
One of those bikes for all of you listening soon, I don't know, I might cut this out of when we post it, is I should have a Stark Varg here in January, so we'll be slapping a kit on that. That's going to be fun. Yeah, dude, I think it's just such. Oh, go ahead.
There's another thing I want to just touch on is on the spindle. We have 2 universal mounting points on the spindle. So go to the spindle, not the ski, the spindle, slide over, keep going, right there. No, go back. There you go. So on the bottom of that spindle, we have 2 mounting points, 2 universal mounting points. We have on the very front of the spindle, there's a 4-bolt hole pattern. And on the side of the spindle, there's a 2-bolt pattern.
Talking about right here, these four holes?
Yep. And then on the outside of the spindle, right above where the ski bolt's on, there you'll see 2 bolt holes. Yep. Those 2 mounting, we don't use those for anything. What they're for is for all the aftermarket companies that make wheels to adapt their wheel system to these 2 mounting points.
Got it.
So the X2D guy that builds the X2D wheel and builds the goggles, he's building a electric bike motorcycle. I don't know exactly which one it is, but it'll be at the Boise Snow Show and it'll be at the Salt Lake Snow Show.
Nice.
And then he's obviously going to be building a wheel kit for our spindle. But
hell yeah,
that'll be a really neat project. So we're kind of supporting it and
Yeah, I've got one of Dimitri's wheel kits for the Timbersled. They're freaking solid.
Yeah, they're solid. We'll make our own wheel kit, but I would sure love to endorse somebody's wheel kit. But those two mounting points, whether you got a Motion wheel kit or the X2D wheel kit or some other brand, there's quite a few of them out there. Even the Yeti wheel kit could be adapted with a bracket for this. So I know through Toby Teal, we're going to do a special bracket for him. And he'll probably sell the kit, but a special bracket to adapt a Yeti wheel because he's got a lot of Yeti wheels.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what? Here's a good one actually. Somebody just asked this. Hyfax.
Yeah. So Polaris Hyfax. So Polaris RMK Hyfax, anywhere from 2002, maybe older on, will work. There's multiple thicknesses of Hyfax, so 3/8 thick or 1/2 inch thick Hyfax, either one will work. But yeah, any RMK Hyfax. Now there are holes in the rail for ice scratchers. We got those coordinated so the ice scratcher don't hang down so far that they get bent. And there are a set of holes in the rail for a optional accessory that we'll eventually have, and it's a wheel, a set of OG wheels in the rail.
So for running on lighter snow conditions.
Yeah, I mean, we don't use any of it. We just drag our feet a little bit. Don't really seem to have a problem. Never have melted a set of Hyfax off, but yeah, if you don't get snow in there, you'll definitely melt them.
I'm hearing all this. You've never done this. You've never done that, and I'm like, I've done all that shit. Like melted Hyfaxes, freaking broke chains.
Well, I'm like a dialed-in dude. I don't like to break down in the mountain, so I pretty much do everything right, so I don't have to deal with it.
Oh, that's the trick.
And some guys will be like, "Well, it's just product development," but some stuff's unnecessary. Burned up chains are unnecessary, and burned up Hyfax are unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, see, when you got, I didn't have the snowmobile experience. I came into this without a lot of that background.
One thing I'll point out, though, on the Hyfax, these narrow rail suspensions, they are a lot harder on the Hyfax than wide rail suspensions.
Okay. Good to know.
You'll look under there, and that thing will be wore off sideways because you're always on the side of the Hyfax. It's got a lot more load on it.
Yeah, that's what I've done on the Yeti kits. Yeah, worn out a couple of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely more possible with a narrow rail.
Here's the next question. Approximate install time. About the same for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, the dealer is, I mean, at this point, so here's one thing. Our kits come unassembled. The dealers actually put them together. So the install time is determined whether the frame is pre-set up. So we have specs for the bikes that we've mounted to. We have preset specs. So when you get the kit, it just fits your motorcycle. There's nothing you have to do. So that might determine how long it takes to put on. It's no different than putting any other snow bike kit on. It just takes what it takes. You spend more time cleaning the motorcycle than you putting the kit on. So as long as everything's been preset by your dealer, it's really easy. If it's not preset by your dealer and you have to figure it out on your own, then it takes longer. So if it's a bike that we've never mounted to and you got the fit kit parts to mount it to that because we made you some, it might take another half an hour or something to put it on because you have to, set the chain alignment and stuff on the frame.
So nothing really crazy there.
No, just knowing that it's right. But yeah, it's just bolts on. There's no modifications required to the bike.
So I think we've kind of covered this a little, but I liked it. I like how Nick's putting this, and we're going to ask this to you. Would you compare this to a wild? I don't know what he means by plains.
Well, I think what he's talking about is it rowdy. That's the term I like to use. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's rowdy. It's a rowdy kit. If you tune that suspension up with 60 or 70 pounds in that back shock, it's rowdy. Meaning you can jump it, bounce it. It flies off of jumps really nice. It has the right amount of, push off the lip of the jump, and it flies really straight and nice. So it's got great suspension. So yeah, I would say it's more rowdy than not.
How much testing did Regan get to do on it?
Regan got a couple days on it. So we went up to Canada and drove around and showcased it to as many guys as we could, mostly dealers. It was enough to make him, want to think about changing, careers.
Career? You mean like building snow bikes or what?
No, just changing brands.
Yeah, which he did.
But he and I go way back too, so we have a really amazing relationship and testing things. I mean, Regan and I used to test, products because his opinion mattered the most to me. So part of his job working for us is to be our, our representative of our company, our poster boy of our company. But more importantly, he's going to be on a lot of our new stuff. He and I will be working close together on tuning and feels and tuning of skags and skis and tracks and suspensions and stuff. So I really look forward to those days again.
I bet, dude. That's the fun shit, right?
And the other guys are going to do the same. I mean, Teal's going to play a big part in aiding of testing and product development. JT Cox will do the same thing. So everybody will do it a little bit differently, but these guys' opinions matter. I mean, they are the professionals of the sport, and can go about it in a professional manner.
Hell yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love how you went to this small kind of network of snow bikers, and everybody rides, everybody loves it, everybody's super passionate about it. And I mean, dude, that's what I don't think anybody could ask for anything better, man. It's not like, you brought in some people that didn't really, maybe they're motorcycles or whatever, but everybody on this page here, man, rides hard.
Yep. We're all alike personalities.
Yeah. Well, so, I can't.
Our goal with our company, though, is that when you contact somebody, a dealer, one of these guys, I mean, it's like calling and talking to me directly. That's how we want to come off. It's all about relationships, customer service, friendships, having fun. And so everybody involved is going to be an alike personality. And if they're not, then they probably won't be on our team of guys. So personal relationships are important to me. And we want that with our dealers. We want it with our customers and anybody that we work with.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks again, Alan. I can't say thank you enough. I appreciate you allowing me to be a part of this and to just see everything going on. And man, I'm so excited to just ride and show people this product and get people out. I mean, part of what I'm just doing is sharing snow biking with people who have no idea what it is. And the easier it can be, especially for these newbies, because this is what's going to continue to grow and elevate the sport, is bringing new blood into here and seeing the new technologies. And so I'm taking motocross guys and guys from all different walks of life within the motorcycle world, and to make it easier to ride and more enjoyable, man. That's what I'm looking for right now. So thank you for doing that.
So part of our plan is to collaborate with these other companies in the industry like BRC and C3 and Pro Moto Billet and all these guys to keep co-developing necessary products for this sport. So we're all aiding, hopefully, in growing the industry and bringing excitement to the industry. I don't want it to go stale. So we're going to work as hard to grow the industry as a whole, not just ourselves. as we do building and selling kits. So you'll see us around. We'll be involved in things. Our guys will be involved in things. And so hopefully that brings more excitement to the sport, which means more people want to do it.
Hell yeah, man.
You're doing a lot yourself, my man.
Thanks.
Rushing to have these conversations. There's not a lot of people in this industry that really aid in growing the industry, and you're one of those guys. I mean, you are out there. You don't pass up an opportunity, and we see how hard you work. And so we can relate to that. So keep up the good work.
Well, thanks, man. It's funny, when I started Snowbike Nation, gosh, it's going on 6 years almost. I could envision this day in the future where it was just going to be, snowbiking is going to be the best. It's going to just be so much fun. There's going to be so many people involved, and it's just cool seeing it happen and it come into fruition and just the evolution of it. So I'm just excited to be a part of it and to get out there and ride as much as possible. And I look forward to helping a lot of people out. And one of the things, I'll just talk about it real quick, but if you guys go check it out, I haven't even officially launched it yet, but the forum's coming. And I've been on Facebook. I mean, Alan's been on the Facebook groups. We've all been on the Facebook groups a lot. And it becomes this giant just shit show and people answering the same question or answering the same things, asking the same questions. So I want to build this just tribe and this, really this amount of, I want to say, rather than it just being this, hey man, we're all snowbiking and we're just here to just have fun. I know a lot of guys really like to share their information and knowledge. And I know Alan has shared, I don't even know how many times on the Facebook group, and answered some of the same dumb questions. Or as, we think, dude, this question's been answered 20 times. This is what I'm building here for all of you guys watching and the up and coming community. And for the manufacturers, one of the first things I did, and I haven't even finished it, I couldn't even put Alan's stuff on there because I couldn't talk about it. But I'm putting all the manufacturers and talking about each one. And then, we'll be having representatives from the different companies being able to answer stuff, including, and I'll help as much as I can. So this is kind of the vision of where we're going with things. And Alan, thank you for being a part of it and for allowing me to see what you're doing and to be a part of this, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I look forward to seeing the new forum. I like the fact that the information is always there and it's not just lost in history.
Yep. Hell yeah, man.
I'm sure it'll become mainstream.
At some point, so we all just got to keep grinding. And thanks everybody watching this. This is why we're doing this. This is why I know Alan's doing this, because he freaking loves snowbiking and he loves to hear from you guys. And it's only going to grow. So, Alan, do you know the first demo day where it's going to be? I know I'm going to do it as soon as possible up here at Penco. So,
yeah, I mean, our demos will all be through the dealers.
Yep.
So, our product, we are selling our product through dealers, and all of our dealers are dealers that all make their living with snow bikes in the wintertime. We don't have any dealers that don't fit that criteria. So these are all guys that have the same passion for it as we do.
Yep. So guys, if you have, and if people have
that, we can, but we're pretty stinking busy building these things.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, if you have questions, go on the dealers, find one that's close to you, reach out to them. All these people have been vetted by Alan, himself. So every single one of these individuals knows what they're talking about. I'm available as much as possible, so you can hit me up and then start hitting up on the forums and asking questions. Everybody's going to be able to help out each other, and it's just going to be awesome. I can't wait for this season, dude.
Cool, man. Me too. So yeah, I'm ready. My bike's ready.
Oh yeah. All right, Alan. Well, thanks again, dude.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Kyle. And yeah, we'll do our best to keep up with everybody's questions all over the internet. If we can find them, we'll answer them.
Hell yeah, man. All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Thanks to Rush as well. And thanks for all you guys are doing, dude.
Okay. Appreciate it, man.
All right, dude.
Have a good one.
Take it easy. All right. See ya. All right. Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate, man. I can't believe how many of you hung out with us. So that's crazy. I did not expect that. So Yeah, demo day's coming, guys. If you want to get up in here and ride, and I'll be posting some stuff here soon for the Snowbikers, really. We're going to be doing side-by-side shootouts. We're going to have 4 of the exact same bikes, and I'm going to have the Mountaintop, the Yeti, the newest Timbersled, the Rail Kit. Maybe we can get another one on there. But yeah, hit up your local dealer. Thanks. Big shout out to Penco for all their support. And just, man, Penco's awesome. Just, they've been a part of what I'm doing since the beginning. So thanks to them, and some good stuff coming this season. So guys, if you have any questions, hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, and hopefully the forum. Well, you can hit me up on the forum too. I'll have my own little personal section there. So if you guys have questions, you can ask there. But the forum's going to grow. I know it's going to be pretty sweet. I'm really excited for this. And there's going to be a lot of stuff. Also, if you're interested in the forum in terms of like being a moderator, I'm going to need help with this as well. So I'm going to be getting 5 to 10 people here to kind of kick it off. So if that's something that you're interested in, hit me up on the forum. I think you can register now. It's all set up. I think I tried to make it set up. But if you have interest in that and you want to help and answer questions, you'll be getting your own. You can do your own blog and everything on here. It's going to be pretty sweet, guys. So this is for you guys. I want to help as many people as possible. If you have any questions, you're talking about posting the link, guys. Mountaintop Snowbikes, mountaintopsnowbike.org right now, and it's going to be .com soon. And then mine's pretty easy. It's just forum.snowbikenation.com. But I'll have a link to it on my website as soon as you're watching this. So yeah, look for that. All right, guys, peace out. Have a great season. Looking forward to riding with you guys and doing more events. It's going to be an awesome year. All right. Ride safe, guys. See ya.